Did I stutter?
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
The 2011 winner of the Heisman Trophy is Robert Griffin III, RG3!
Welcome to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Langoliers, base hit to center, and the Baylor Bears win their first Big 12 tournament championship.
Their fat little girlfriends are telling them what they want to hear, which is how great you are.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Yep, just ready for OU.
You can't handle the truth.
Here's Drake Toll.
And welcome into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Jersey Thursday, everybody, as they call it in Guam, and we're at Providence. It's Jersey. Drake Toll, J.D. Pickell, Andrew Robertson, and Armstrong Sims in studio today, talking about a little bit of Baylor basketball.
Are they still playing?
You know, the season ended 3 days ago.
How did it end?
Well, you know, somebody had to go home.
Wait, I'm still watching season 2. So
really?
Is it on Netflix?
Oh, season 2, you're going to be in trouble with that. I think they win like 3 games that year.
Okay.
Very sorry. That's going to be really boring. But I'll tell you what, season 18, Scott Drew, see, when he comes on the show, things get crazy.
No
things
kidding.
Get crazy.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout.
3 days ago, the Baylor Bears won a national championship. We're still riding the high. We're taking your calls, 254-339-1122. Some other things have happened since then. You could ask me what those other things are, and I would tell you that I don't know. I honestly have not paid attention to really anything in sports media outside of Baylor winning a national championship. And this show is a direct reflection of that, as today's guest list, Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider, Kendall Kaut, who's writing a book about the Baylor national championship, and Ashley Hodge, who is in Indianapolis for like a week and a half.
Is he really writing a book, Kendall Kaut is?
Kendall Kaut's writing a book.
Good for him. That's awesome. Writing a book. That is so cool. I'm pumped to read that.
So those guys are going to put together a book on Baylor and the national championship run. There's some stuff that SicEm365 is doing to put together some video archive things, possible documentary, mockumentary stuff.
Ooh.
Not mockumentary. That'd be great, though. Who plays Scott Drew in the mockumentary?
Dude, you know who looks like a young Scott Drew? Andrew Robertson.
Okay, Andrew Robertson
I think he looks like a young Scott Drew.
Plays teenage Scott Drew.
Like when Scott Drew decides that he wants to follow his dad's footsteps.
I can go
That's a good question, though.
anywhere.
I know Paul Catalina did a top 5 on this, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, the actors? Yeah.
I have no idea. I legitimately would. Tom Cruise?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
I'm going to rule him out. I'm going to
Coach.
For height reasons, I'm going to rule him out. He's
Yeah,
a little bit too tall.
He is
He's a
too
little
tall.
too tall.
I'll workshop
Tom
that.
Cruise. Tom Cruise is my answer to that.
Call lines are open, 254-339-1122. Give us a call. We'll talk about national championship basketball. We got a little bit of football we can talk about today, but I just want to talk all things basketball.
Yeah.
Baylor, after dominating Gonzaga 86-70, it's still kind of setting in right now. You know, I'm sure you folks at home would hopefully agree that it all is so much to process.
Mm-hmm.
The first glimpses that I had of processing it. So let me take you on a little walk.
Take me. I took my dog for a walk.
You take your dog. You too. I'm gonna take you on a little journey. So it was the game's over. We watch them cut the nets down and everything. I don't leave Indianapolis until about 2 a.m. We board a car. We got tickets to board a car. We get in a car from Indianapolis and go to Lexington, Kentucky at 2 a.m. We arrive in Lexington at 5 a.m. I'm sitting in the living room of a townhouse in Lexington, Kentucky, like at 5 a.m. local time after the game was
Baylor
over.
friend?
Right.
Okay.
The game had been over for about 5.5 hours. I'm sitting there, and I just start tearing up. Like, it became real in that moment. I don't know if it was the lack of sleep or the fact that Baylor had just won a national championship.
Probably a beautiful marriage of both.
A beautiful marriage of both. It just became really real that, like, for the first time in history, this is the biggest thing to ever happen in Baylor history.
Yeah.
You know, and we talked about it the other day in the post-game show after the Houston game. Butch Henry, you know, butterfly effects. There are Baylor fans that didn't make it this far. T-Rex had called in about his dad that would have enjoyed and loved that moment so much. There's so many I'm going to say us that didn't see that moment, but had lived their entire life rooting for Baylor and were content even without it.
And it's a beautiful parallel between Baylor Nation and the kind of cast of characters you had that ended up finally winning the national title. Guys that really had no business winning the national title. Davion Mitchell, guy who transferred from Auburn. Jared Butler was at Alabama for like all of 48 hours and dipped out. Maceo Teague, UNC Asheville, like the list goes on and on and on of guys that were really in a lot of ways an island of misfit toys. And Scott Drew, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Everyone said, hey, you're crazy for taking that job in Waco. Nobody's going to win there. You can't win in Waco. You can't win at Baylor. They got Texas in that conference. They got Texas Tech in that conference. I don't know if they're talking about Texas Tech at that point, but you get the gist. And so for that group of people to win the national title and parallel that with the kind of people that have supported this program for years on end, and now we're along for the ride. I mean, it really is beautiful that it's such an odd place like Waco and such an odd group that was able to get it done. So in so many ways, it's poetic. I can't talk about it enough.
254-339-1122. Give us a call or a text. You can text the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line. How about this? We got G-Dub on the line, Joe Frazier both on the line. We're going to get to those guys in 1 second. If you're watching out there on Twitter, if you're watching on wherever you're watching, find the way to watch that's best for you. It's not your grandma's show, but it is your grandma's show.
It is.
It's your grandpa's show and your aunt and your uncle. It's everybody's show. Find the best way to listen for you, whether that be on what is it, YouTube? We're on Roku.
Yeah.
We're on SicEm365.com. There's a lot. You can find so many different outlets. Find the best way to listen for you, where you can listen live in a way that's most comfortable. You don't want to listen on YouTube on your phone and then have to click off and do a bunch of stuff. No,
you can get your fix any way you want it.
Get your fix. Subscribe on YouTube.
You want it.
That's the way you need it. If you subscribe on YouTube, you know that it alerts you every day. It says boop, 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 up tempo's live, pew, 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 and then you can watch it. You remember. You don't forget. Some days. I forget.
I forget every single day when I get here at 10:55. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Something about shows,
what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Cameras.
And then I realize I have a jersey on, and it's Thursday. I'm like, is it? It can't be.
There's a radio show. Why are there cameras?
Yeah,
that's what I think that every day. When
I wake up every single time. I'm like, oh, this is crazy.
G-Dub, what's going on, man? Snap, crackle, pop. All right.
What's up, guys?
Go, Dub.
What's up, G-Dub?
Hey, yeah, I don't know. It hasn't set in for me yet either.
It really just it's odd, isn't it?
I ordered some championship merch yesterday, and hopefully it gets here soon.
I'm gonna go to the bookstore today and grab some stuff. I grabbed this yesterday.
Boom.
It's kind of tough to see. It's $7 at the bookstore. I found it in a box that was not supposed to be open. I looked down at the box and I was like, I need it. So I went to one of the guys that worked there. I was like, listen, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to snoop, and I wasn't looking through your stuff, but I really want one. And he was like, well, you can have the very first one that we ever sell.
Let's go.
So
that's pretty cool. It looks good, too.
Landed it. Hey, G-Dub, did you go to public or private high school?
Public.
I went to public school, too. Did you watch Reading Rainbow when you were in high school?
Reading Rainbow?
Yeah.
No, we had to read To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
That counts for something. We also had to read To Kill a Mockingbird.
We actually killed mockingbirds at my school.
Really?
We just throw rocks at them.
That is a PETA violation.
PE, yeah.
A lot of PETA violations
weird.
going on there.
It was weird.
G-Dub, how you feeling today? You said it hadn't really soaked in yet, hadn't really sunk in yet?
Yeah, I don't know. It won't set in until probably when they get their rings.
Wow. Because when is that supposed to be? First game of next year?
First home game.
That's what's going to be?
Yeah. Which I'm sure they'll schedule the first game to be home.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, just to see, I can't imagine, I just want to see, Scott Drew just walking down walking to get his ring and, of course, putting his fist up in the air and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, G-Dub, I got a Bear Games question of the day for you today. If you were going to name the Baylor movie or the Baylor 30 for 30 they make about this season, what would you name it? That's per Scotty B. That's Scotty B's question he asked.
There you go, Scotty B.
How Scott drew it up.
Ooh, how Scott drew it up.
That's good. Is that off the dome? There was no hesitation in that answer, DJ. Have you thought about that for a minute?
No.
Wow.
Goat Dub.
Yep, gonna land that. Nobody else can take it. Nobody can take it from you, G-Dub. Hey, G-Dub, Incredibles or Monsters, Inc.?
No kick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I like Monsters, Inc., actually. And then Up or Inside Out?
Inside Out.
Ooh, Up starting on the back trend. Hey, G-Dub, anything else you got for us?
I just want to, not really. I mean, Not really. I'm out of questions today. I didn't think of a question for y'all yesterday. So.
Hey, look, come back tomorrow with one. You know we'll be here.
All right.
See you later,
Thanks for
G-Dub.
calling, G.
All right, later, guys.
See you.
About that title off the top of the dome.
Yeah.
Just goes how Scott drew it up.
There
was what about it was how Scott drew it up.
Yeah,
Like,
just casual.
Okay.
Cool cucumber.
Yeah.
We got Joe Frazier on the line. Now, this Joe Frazier, we determined last time, same guy, boxing legend, Joe Frazier.
Muhammad Ali knocked him out.
Dead or alive? Alive. He's alive now, and he's here today with us. And then he started doing that grill business, and his grills are going massive. Joe Frazier, what's going on, my man? Don't throw any punches. Not today.
Okay, I'll keep them with both the belts too.
Yeah. We only fight fair on this show.
No face though. No face though. That's no hair and no face.
Man, I actually got to experience a really fantastic moment yesterday. I was at the mall, walking around, hanging out, just killing time. Well, and I come across none other than Davion Mitchell.
No way.
I got to meet him face to face. Had a great conversation with him for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I have the utmost respect for that guy. And it reflects what Scott Drew has done with this program, because let's face it, guys, these young men that are coming out of his program are probably the most respectful, humble, let's face it, because they're younger than me, kids that I've ever met.
Yeah.
I cannot give them enough. There's not enough adjectives in the dictionary to positively describe the kind of genuine people that they are showing the community of Waco who they really are.
Yeah.
I walk up and talk to him for a few minutes, and then as soon as I leave, a female comes up and says, "Hey, can I take your picture?" And he's like, "Sure, no problem."
Wow.
He didn't bat an eye, wasn't worried about people bothering him, nothing. He was just a down-to-earth, genuine, humble dude, and that's something that I'll take for a very long time, because, and I got nothing but respect for that gentleman, just from him taking time out of his day just to talk to me for a few minutes.
See, this is why I believe this national championship is just the tip of the iceberg for Baylor and Scott Drew, because you now have the resume, right? You have the Final Four, you have the national championship. Imagine Scott Drew coming into your living room and talking to you about your kid coming to play at Baylor and winning another national title. First of all, you're not going to say no to Scott Drew, just ever, period. He's just too nice a guy, too great of a communicator, and now he's got a little jewelry on that finger. He's got a nice little championship ring that says, hey, I can get your kid to the league, get him a natty. That is the total package, and I think that we're going to see an absolute just era of dominance here from Baylor in the coming years.
I agree. I
can agree with you more.
I love it. Couldn't have happened to a more deserving group.
Yeah.
I think that statement cannot be overstated. It couldn't have happened to a more deserving group of Scott Drew and these guys. And I want to get your thoughts, Joe. Personable. I think that's the best way to explain these guys. They love people so well, and I think that's an extension of Scott Drew. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. 100%. In my opinion, they're an extension of Scott Drew's personality and Coach Tang's personality. Those, 12 to 15 guys, heck, I'm sure even the trainers that work with the basketball program have that same mentality. It's the Drew mentality. And in fact, I'd even call it the Drew madness, but it's madness in a good way, because they're just humble and respectful and just genuine, down-to-earth people.
Wow.
And it's amazing to see where that program has come, because like I said before, I was graduating high school when Scott Drew first got here. I'll be 37 this year, and I've seen it from start to finish with Scott Drew. And then I'm going to throw one more nugget at you. My grandpa, this is on a personal level for me, my grandpa is 99 and 364 days old today.
Wow.
Tomorrow he hits the century mark.
Let's go.
And he's still alive and still kicking. So be prepared. I will call tomorrow, and because we will be celebrating that century mark on any airway that I can get on.
Wow. Yeah. Is he a Baylor fan?
I don't care. I'm sorry?
Is he a Baylor fan? Tell me he's a Baylor fan.
Well, he's a Baylor fan through me, by all means, because he watches any sport that I'm watching when I'm right there with him. And to throw you a little sports nugget, he actually lived in Lott, Texas, on Tomlinson Hill, where LaDainian Tomlinson's family originated.
Interesting.
Wow.
So, I mean, then he didn't know a whole lot about LaDainian Tomlinson at the time, but he knew about his family. He knew about his parents. He knew about his grandparents. So it was because when the LT won the MVP title, they came down and a couple of news people came down and did a story on him, and he didn't really have the information about LT. He had all the information about his family.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool, interesting deal because him and my step grandma were able to talk about all the behind the scenes stuff and not so much LT personally. So there is a little bit of a sports tie there. So, and he's who I'm named after. So he's the other original Joe Frazier.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, Joe, thanks for your call, man. Before we let you go, we got to get to Bear games. And this right here is something you said, the Drew mentality. I almost want to go with that period. But what would you name the 30 for 30 or the movie they make about Baylor?
Oh, I say Drew mentality with in parentheses madness, but in a positive way, obviously.
Wow.
But I can't shake G-Dubs because he was spot on with his.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
How Scott drew it up.
That was fantastic.
How Scott drew it up. How about Incredibles or Monsters, Inc.?
Dude, I'm Prior Service. It's Incredibles all day long.
Knockouts. And then Up or Inside Out? A couple of new school ones.
Man, let's go Inside Out on that one.
Wow, 2-0.
Because I'm thinking basketball. You play inside out a little bit.
Okay.
That's good.
Baylor plays Up though. All right, hey, thanks for your call though, Joe. Always good to hear from you. Glad you're in Waco.
Take it easy, fellas. Thank you.
Joe.
See you, Joe. What about Walking in Waco? I don't know how it correlates, but that could just be a good title.
Needs to be in the background.
Kind of sounds poetic.
We got Tony here from Austin. Tony talking about the Baylor Bears. Tony, hey, man, it shows me you're a first-time caller, hopefully a long-time listener. Good to hear from you, man. What you got for us?
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking my phone call. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I'm a relatively new listener. I didn't know y'all existed till like a week ago. Nice. In all honesty.
Love it.
Once I started getting prepared for the Houston game, my dad's been a lifelong Baylor fan. I kind of milled around a little bit, kind of stopped watching sports for the longest time and kind of, just kind of wasn't really always all there, I guess. So, but my dad's always been the one, hey, let's go to games and this and that. And of course I was like, remember being like 12, 13 and, we lived in Austin. I actually have moved to Waco since then. But it was weird, growing up, 20 minutes outside of UT and my dad being a huge Baylor fan and me being like, why is this guy a Baylor fan? Because he's not a graduate. He is a Baptist minister, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But he always said, hey, I like the school. They're a Baptist school, and, that's my school. And I was like, all right, well, I get it, cool. And so I actually just called just because, like I said, I found you guys about a week or so ago, and I love the show, love everything about it. And I like first caller said, I don't think it sunk in yet. I really started following them, 3-4 years ago, once the rebuild was actually on and just to be here, especially after what happened. Cause just like Joe Frazier said, I was a senior. I graduated in 2003 at Round Rock High School. So I was there and I remember thinking, oh my God, like, this is horrible. This is atrocious. Because my dad told me all about it, and of course, everything I learned was secondhand through him. And so, but just to be here and just to be able to witness what I feel is probably the greatest rebuild in college sports period, beyond basketball, beyond any other sport, just college sports period, and to do it in a school like Waco, inside of the Big 12 with Kansas and Texas and these great, Kansas State teams that they've had at times, just to be able to do all of this and just where Drew did it at. And the fact that Drew begged to come to the school. Like, I remember I read a story about how he met, the AD at the time and the president at the time, and like laid out all these streamers and everything, and had these fake, news reports about how they had won the Natty, and just to go to these links to go to a school that people told him, no pun intended, but was going to be the death of his coaching career, and to now be here where we're at is absolutely amazing. And I cannot begin. I mean, every day I wake up and I'm like, still champion.
Yeah.
The wife's a little mad at me because she doesn't really understand the fandom. But I was like, this has never happened, and, I'm 35, 36. This never happened, and so I begged her to go to McLean Stadium on Monday, and she was like, no, I'm not really comfortable with that, with COVID. So I was able to talk her into going to walk-ons, which was still just amazing to be there with other rowdy Baylor fans and just to sit there and watch that absolute drumming that they put on Gonzaga, and just knowing that, hey, I'm going to watch a men's Bears national championship team, here in the next couple of minutes was just amazing. And then I stopped by Dick's and got my champion shirt that night.
Wow,
I'm crazy like that.
Unbelievable. It was wild to turn around. Hey, Tony, I want to know a couple of things from you. And first, I know, Jason King said it on the show yesterday, was that it wasn't a rebuild. This was a build. There's no read to it. There was nothing to build. Yeah. Scott Drew had to, from the ground up, make it happen here at Baylor, and he did. And that's what makes this so unbelievable. If my thing is, say a coach does this at a school like, and I'm going to use it just because I know it, Arkansas. Yeah. Won a title in 94, went in 95. They've got basketball history, never a huge scandal. Somebody comes in 20 years later and wins a national championship. That makes sense. It's like, okay, you took a program that has history, built them into something. Baylor doesn't have history. Like you can look back at the 40s and 50s. That wasn't the same style of basketball. There weren't the same rules in basketball. It wasn't the same tournament. This is out of nowhere Scott Drew winning this title. Tony, and I'm glad we're all alive for it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I mean, nobody that I know in my family anymore was alive the last time Baylor was even in a Final Four, much less a championship game. Because my dad's only in his late 60s. So, I mean, he wasn't even, a thought at the time, when Baylor was last here. And I do have one question for you guys real quick, and I'll shut up and let y'all ask me the Bear questions of the day.
Love it.
It actually does kind of have to do with the movie. I've kind of heard, some inklings about a movie or 30 for 30. And I know that, I guess, I've even heard rumblings on the 365, website that we're trying to raise money for a documentary. Are we going to make it just a straight Scott Drew documentary, or are we going to kind of have it be like the downfall of the program with everything that happened back in 2003 and then Scott Drew coming in, or are we going to kind of, what are we thinking, or what would you guys like to see out of, hopefully it's a full-fledged movie, and not just a 30 for 30 on ESPN. I mean, both would be awesome, but if I had to choose, I would rather have it be a feature-length movie, that I can go to theaters and watch.
I'd like for it to be in the vein of Last Dance, like an emphasis on this year's Baylor national title run, but with a Scott Drew storyline, if that makes sense. Because I think there's just so much to unpack there with Scott Drew.
That was an excellent documentary as well. So.
Yeah. I think there's so much to unpack there with Scott Drew that it's worth having that be the underlying theme and having him be like the central character. That would get my vote, but I mean, any way you draw it up, I'm sure it'll be phenomenal. The story writes itself.
Tony, glad to have you listening. We'll definitely touch base with that, and I want to have that conversation obviously here in studio with what we would kind of want to see out of that. Tony, I do want to ask for you though, as a new listener, the show's name is Up Tempo. We're living up to that, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, like every day I'm just trying to pull in everything I can, especially now. Like that's so bad, but I spent the last ever since Tuesday morning happened just trying to find every little bit that I can about all these national pundits talking about this and that, and then of course it's nice to get a Waco-centric, Baylor-centric view of the whole situation. It's not just a bunch of talking heads just talking out their rear ends, if you will. So I definitely like the show. It's definitely something that I look forward to for a couple hours, 3 hours a day. While I'm at work, and sometimes I kind of got to mute it or, got to pause it, so I can listen to it later, when pause is on my butt. But I do like the show. I enjoy it. I enjoy the content. I enjoy, like I said, it being a Baylor Waco-centric, radio podcast because where I work, I can't get 1660. So I go, so I love it.
Tony, one, thank you. We don't exist without you.
That's true.
Second part of that, how did you find us, if I may be so bold to ask?
Good point.
Actually, I found you guys on YouTube. Like I said, I was just trying to find anything and everything about, like originally it started with me trying to find like the national media, trying to be like, oh, we thought this was going to happen because nobody thought Baylor was going to win. Let's be real here. And I just wanted to watch all these Stephen A. type people being like, oh, I had an inkling, just like a bit like, yo, it's so full of crap. Let's be real here. And y'all didn't give us a single chance. And they went out and just, beat Gonzaga like a drum. So, I mean, and then I was like, oh, what is this? What is 365? And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of neat. And then, of course, I went back and watched some of the previous shows because y'all are on YouTube and I can go back and watch the video on demands and everything. So it really just happened I found y'all from me looking through, looking for national media coverage of Baylor, to be honest with you.
Sweet.
Wow. Exploring Baylor. Hey, Tony, Bear Games question. So if you're going to make that documentary or that movie, what are you going to name it?
I've actually been thinking about this, and like I said, the Tuesday after everything happened, I went and watched Disgraced again. So I would want it to be called Back in the Graces, something along those lines. I don't want to say counter the narrative that the Showtime showed, but something on the back end of that. We were disgraced, and now we're back in the graces, or something to that effect. Obviously, with it being a Baptist school, something like that. And definitely not as good as the original one, but, that's all I got. So
I like that.
Wow. Hey, Incredibles or Monsters, Inc.? Have you seen either of these, Tony?
Yeah, Monsters, Inc. by far.
I love Monsters, Inc. Incredibles is a close second for me, but I love Monsters, Inc. Have you seen Up or Inside Out? A couple of new school ones.
I have seen both of them, but my son's really first movie that he got hooked on was Up. I had to watch it about 7 or 8 times a day for about 6 months there when he was about 4 or 5.
Ooh.
So I'm going to have to go Up.
Up it is. Hey, Tony, thanks so much for calling us, man. We'd love to hear from you again soon.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks, Tony.
New caller, new listener. That's awesome.
Dude, that is. The growth, baby. I love we got Philip on the line here. We got Richard here, too. Before we get to those, though, you mentioned like the kind of the progression into the documentary or the movie, what it would be, kind of a Last Dance. I don't think there is a documentary without the Dave Bliss scandal.
Yeah.
Oh, folks tiptoe around that so much. They tiptoe around that so much. Yeah. Guys, it happened. Like that's one thing that as a Baylor-centric show, as people that are Baylor fans, followers of the program, that happened. Mm-hmm. Like we can try to be like, oh yeah, but there was that thing that took place before Scott Drew got here.
Right.
I am guilty of that. Sure. I say that all the time. I do that on the show. Yeah, but there was that one scandal. Like look at it.
Yeah, and it's not fun to talk about, but I think at the same time, it honors that family and that team to include that into what the storyline would be. Because you're exactly right. There is no Scott Drew story without that scandal, which is absolutely tragic. But I think it speaks to the resilience of that team, resilience of everyone involved, and honors that family in a lot of different ways. So I'm
all of that is out there. There is no documentary, there is no movie about Scott Drew and this run to the national championship, the winning the national championship, without doing an in-depth look at that scandal and what took place. Because that is a legitimate and real part of Baylor history that you got to look square in the face and say, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
This happened.
And it could have come even more apart at the seams if not for the people that were there to, be in the foxhole during that time. There were a lot of guys that went through the probably most disgusting, difficult, low. You name that. You name the adjective. It probably applies to what that season was like for those people.
We had a caller, I think in the post-game show after Houston, that had mentioned he remembers the day that it was released.
Yeah.
Hey, Denny's gone missing.
Yeah.
Like that, to live that moment, to be in Waco, to be in school at Baylor in that moment, and the way it all went down. There are documentaries that are out there. You got to look at it square in the face. You say that it happened, and that it was a black scar that marred the basketball program for history. But that Scott Drew and what he has done is rebuilt this back to grace, the program back to grace. And I don't think that's my thing. There's not a documentary without mention, a detailed, full-length mention of what happened in that scandal.
100%.
So I think that is A1 for me. The movie or the documentary's got to take a legitimate look at that and how Scott Drew built from that. We got Richard on the Impact Health Labs caller line. Richard, what you got for us today, my man?
Well, going back to the Bliss thing, we had a scandal shortly before Bliss got there with Gerald Johnston and transcript. Some guys getting credits for classes from some obscure school in Georgia and whatnot. And so I told my son, I said, because Bliss got a clean bill of health, which later on everybody said that he shouldn't have, but that's what SMU gave us, and OU, I guess. And so anyway, I told my son, I said, now we're in good shape finally. And, we're past all the trouble. And then, the thing about the Dennehy going missing, it was on the news for like a month because he was missing for quite some time till they found his body. And the guy that shot him he was not even in school at the time. Yeah. He was supposed to be in Baltimore. And so anyway, it was not a good time because it was the lead story on the news for at least a month, until his body was found. Very tragic. Disappointing for everybody, for sure.
What, for you, Richard, how can you juxtapose that moment, being a Baylor fan in that moment, to being a Baylor fan today? How vastly different are the emotions between the two?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, it's just night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day and darkness of night. So, it was a depressing time, and people like to jump on the bandwagon of those Baylor haters and, calling us hypocrites. And they love that with a Christian school.
Yeah. They do.
When you fall from grace, it's just, they jump to it just like they did with Rouse.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have that spotlight. Everyone's looking at you, and, they kind of root for you when you're standing on some sort of, religious, I don't want to say stage, but religious platform. I think there is a lot of eyes on you, hoping that you slip up.
You
100%.
state your principles, and they fall short. You fall short of those principles, and nobody liked it. Yep. Nobody was happy that it happened, and I mean, it was a dark, dark time.
Mm-hmm. Wow, absolutely.
Hey, Richard, before we let you get out of here, I know that you would love to see a documentary or a movie of Scott Drew and what he's done at Baylor, the build that he's done at Baylor. If you were going to name it, do you have any idea what you would name that movie or documentary?
Well, we had some really good ones earlier. I would say Drew's Tale, and that's Tale. Mm-hmm. From Darkness to Light.
Wow. You mentioned that, As Dark as Night when it first all went down. Yeah. Hey, Richard, thanks for calling us, and thanks for being an avid listener and caller on the show. I told you I got to meet your boy in Indianapolis. He had a lot of good things to say about you.
I heard that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Was he behaving?
You know what, Richard? I'm not going to go on record and lie to you. But I bet you he behaves most days.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Hey, Richard, thanks again.
He was born Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have any choice. He had no choice.
And he is to this day. You brainwashed him right.
It's good parenting.
I did.
I love it. Thanks again for your call, Richard.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to, when I come in, I'm going to bring you a Dave Bliss basketball.
Wow. So no way. Thank you for that.
Have them on opposite ends.
Wow.
Thank you.
They're hard to find.
That's a piece of history.
That's awesome.
That's in a museum right there. Hey, Richard, thanks again, man. Call us again soon.
Okay. You guys have a good day.
Thanks, too, Richard. We had Philip on the line right there. Philip dropped us, but Philip, if you get service back or whatnot, you give us a call back, and we'll definitely take it. Andrew, I think you had a comment. I was looking. I don't know if you had a response on kind of the documentary, what you'd want to see from the documentary.
Mm-hmm. What's the saying where you can't experience the highest highs without experiencing the lowest lows?
Ooh.
I think that's it.
There's a lot of them.
Is that it?
Yeah, that makes sense. Darkest before the dawn.
Right. So, if you don't include the lowest lows, and it really just discounts how far this program has come. And then just kind of like talking about this more into the future, do you think that, Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler being potential first-round draft picks, do you think recruits see that and that makes them want to come join this program even more, on top of winning the national title?
I think it has to. I think because one, I want to backtrack to your point, Darkest Before the Dawn. Without including that piece of the story, Baylor's just a bad basketball team that gets a good coach and they're able to, become a national champion within 20 years, which is awesome, which in itself is a great movie. But I don't think you capture, like we've talked about, you don't capture the essence of what this season and what Scott Drew brought to Baylor. To your point about Davion and Jared Butler, I think 100%, because Baylor is, I think, on the verge of becoming a blue blood in the next 20 to 50 years. I mean, who knows if it'll be that long, but if they keep winning titles, I think you have to put them in that conversation. All things being equal, Baylor's probably not a blue blood right now, but it's a place where you can go, develop as a person, develop as a player, and you see 2 of your starting 5 become a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
That is enticing to an 18-year-old high school kid who says, hey, I want to go play in the league one day. You can become a great person and a great player and make a whole lot of money playing basketball after you leave Baylor.
Yeah, and especially because you kind of already see it with the recruits coming in, top 10 recruiting class. I mean, these are potentially like 2 or 3 starters from high school. Like, these guys have real experience. 1 5-star, 2 very highly recruited 4-stars. I think it's going to be a new era because Scott Drew's never had this kind of talent before coming straight from high school, and he's already such a good coach at developing talent. This could be something special, the start of something great.
Tarian Prince, Corey Jefferson, Pierre Jackson, Perry Jones, Quincy Acey, Quincy Miller, Ekpe Odu, Lawrence Roberts. I mean, I flipped both of those names. You look down the list of NBA draft picks under Scott Drew, and it's proven. Like, that recruits itself.
Mm-hmm. And all guys that weren't one and done. Guys that stuck around, played for the team for a while, developed as a player, developed as a person. Making some money now. Making a good amount of money playing in the association.
You can recruit pointing at,
You can do it at Baylor.
Ekpe Udo, not Epke Odu. That's the inverse. That's the inverse.
That's all good.
Got Philip Shelley on the line. It says national champs, baby. Hey, Philip, thanks for calling us again today. Your 7th call. Hey!
There it is, baby. Lucky number 7. Lucky number 7.
Yeah. Do I get a trophy? Like a national champ replica or something?
Look, you send me your address, and I will personally mail you one of these. I will mail you 1 packet of Zyos to put in a water bottle.
That's worth the address.
That's marketing right there, Philip. That's marketing.
Get you hooked.
No, I actually had a question for you guys though this morning.
Yeah, what's up? Hit us with it.
Love it.
If it hits you yet. If yes or no, and then when it hit you, that, hey, we woke up and we're national champs and nobody can take that away from us.
Drake, you want to take this one?
I kind of alluded to it earlier that kind of when I sat down in that living room in Lexington after we'd driven back a little bit, that was a big moment for me. I think that maybe the most emotional part, I want to start there for a little bit. I was in a parking garage taking a picture of the big bracket on the JW Marriott in Indianapolis. Get to the very bottom of the parking garage as we're just exiting to go back to Lexington, and the Baylor, I hear sirens. The Baylor buses pull up next to the parking garage. There's a line of friends and family, and I remember one of the managers stepped off the bus and ran like full sprint and just embraced who I assume is his girlfriend. This is the first time he's seen her in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
To see,
awesome.
Different than any other year, because usually, you'd get to hang out with them and, see them, and, they're there, but they were in a bubble. These guys didn't see their family for weeks.
Crazy.
So to see that emotion when these people were reuniting with one another, and not only that, but to see, Scott Drew's got a net around his neck in that moment. It's now setting in for me. Thinking back to that, I was still in shock in that point in time, but thinking back on those memories that I have from Indianapolis, it sets in that, holy cow, those folks were scrambling to get Scott Drew's autograph, who we've had on the show.
Yeah.
I think that in itself, you've ridden in a car with the guy at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And he's a national championship head coach.
Yeah, man.
That gives me chills. I think that's what helps it set in for me is just those moments, thinking back on those moments now. And I'll tell you, it's not completely set in. And I don't know when it will. There's a flag hanging in my living room that says Baylor Bears national champions, but it still hadn't completely come over me.
That's special. I would say it hit for me probably around the 2 to 3 minute mark. I mean, I think there's two phases of this. One, you realize, okay, we're going to win the national championship. We are national champs.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, holy cow. Like, I think you're just excited for the guys that won the whole thing. I mean, to start, for Scott Drew, for his guys, like, that was the first wave. I think it'll really hit for me once we start seeing these guys that have made their decision on the NBA draft. At that point, when it's like, wow, you came to Baylor. You came back to Baylor after you could have left with a crazy COVID-ridden season. Like, these guys had every single reason to leave and decided to stay to accomplish something special. I was watching Jared Butler's announcement video where he stated, hey, I'm coming back to Baylor to win a national title. And when that hit, watching that hit differently, I will say that. But once these guys decide, hey, I'm going to go on to greener pastures and play for some whole lot of greenbacks in the NBA, I think that'll be, okay, wow. They made their mark on this program, and their footprint is forever going to be a part of what Baylor did here.
Philip, has it sunk in for you? I mean, are you kind of coming to terms with it?
Yeah, I don't know. Now, I think it'll really hit when I go to the parade, because me and the family, we're coming down to Waco for the parade. I can't miss that. So I think then it'll really hit. I'm still in disbelief and belief at the same time. And I only started actually becoming a Baylor fan when I went to Baylor.
Me too.
Unfortunately, I grew up a TU fan my entire life, and that quickly changed once I got on campus. But so I didn't really struggle like a lot of these fans, a lot of these El Paso alumni did with the pre-years to where I went to school.
Yeah.
And I think it honestly would have hit me quicker if we just didn't spank them.
Yeah.
We dominated from the jump, and so it was like from that moment. It was like, oh, all right, here we go. It's not getting any closer.
Yeah,
at this point, like they're not going to come back.
Yeah, it's like, is this happening?
I think it would have been easier for me to grasp if it had been a closer game.
Yeah.
Then because it was the whole 2.5 hours of the game was controlled by us the entire time.
I love that you said that, Philip, because I was wholly prepared for Baylor to win by 2, and I had mentally prepared for how I was going to feel. Like, everybody knows how you feel when somebody hits a game-winning shot.
Yes.
You know how to feel. You're programmed to know, like, the elation that comes with that. But no one knows how to feel when you knock off the number 1 team in the country that's favored by 16. Like, I wasn't ready to feel that. I was in shock.
Dominated.
And it had that too good to be true feeling the entire time. Like, you're thinking, okay, when are they going to get back in the game? When is it going to come back to 2, like Drake was saying? And that moment just never hit. And then clock hit 000s. Within 2 minutes, you're thinking, okay, wow, this is really going to happen. This is going to happen, and they're going to win in this convincing of fashion against, quote unquote, the greatest team of all time.
Yeah, on that.
31-1.
Yeah,
man. 31-1.
I agree. Right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Philip, our Bear Games question today. I'm sure you'd want to see a documentary or a movie made. Scotty B, the Baylor King, put this on Twitter last night. What would you name it?
Scotty. I would just keep it simple. What was the theme of the year for them was joy.
Wow.
That's, you started, like you said earlier, this wasn't a rebuild. You literally built it from scratch. And he built the culture of joy. So I would go with either the culture of joy or just joy.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Hey, Philip, last couple ones here on the Bear Games. Incredibles or Monsters, Inc.?
Oh, Monsters, Inc.
I agree. It's
Interesting.
2-2 now. It's 2-2.
Interesting.
Up or Inside Out?
I haven't seen Inside Out, so I have to go with Up.
Oh, it's 2-2 in that one as well. Hey, Philip, thanks for your call, man. Call us back again tomorrow.
All right, we'll do Sick 'em Bears, baby.
Thanks,
Love
Phil.
it. Thanks, Philip.
Cope.
Okay. We've got, what's up, hey, Rob?
ESPN recently, and by recently I mean minutes ago, put out the 2021 NBA mock draft.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to give you live stats.
Please.
At 7, Davion Mitchell.
7.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Who has the 7th pick in their mock?
Washington.
You know who probably put that together? Paul Biancardi, who joined the show yesterday.
No kidding.
Probably put that
you
together.
think so? Is that tampering by us?
Yep.
Perhaps.
I love it.
It's fine.
Dude, 7 would be
with the 20,
awesome.
Yeah, I agree. With the 23rd pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Jared Butler.
He moved up. Oh my gosh, LeBron and Jared Butler's unfair. It's a super team.
Now this is why this is what shocked me.
Here it comes.
Okay, because there's one more Baylor Bear at 53.
Can I guess?
You are welcome to guess.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Matthew Meyer time.
With the 53rd pick, the Detroit Pistons select Matthew Meyer.
No way.
I thought he was going to come back,
Dude,
but why would you? Why would you come back?
Because that paycheck's not near as much as he could.
You don't think so?
Okay. He might be sitting in that 15 spot next year.
I think he'd be higher than that.
Yeah.
Here's the
6'9"
deal.
and can shoot.
Yeah.
That said, he'll be 22. Most NBA guys are starting their career at 19. So they draft young. Your top 10 picks are all going to be 20 or under. But every now and then there is a guy who is just built for that's true. Yeah. There's a guy built for the NBA where you're like, okay, like Luka Garza, not built for the NBA. He's not built for the NBA.
Yeah, he's number 54.
He's
right
going
behind
to be a great insurance agent. He's going to be a great I bought a house from Luka Garza
in Iowa.
Iowa retired my number.
Right.
So buy your house from me.
55 insurance.
Yeah. So, you've got that aspect of Luka Garza, but I just don't. Matthew Meyer's built for the NBA. Folks know it.
There will be couches set on fire in Waco again if he declares for the NBA draft. It'll be on fire for all of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, no,
if Matthew Meyer declares.
Yeah.
He's a fan favorite.
That said,
he's coming back, right? He's got to come back.
We've been around Matthew Meyer.
The potential is so high for him to come back. Like, come back, be the guy.
He could be the guy. I think he could be a top 10 pick. He's been getting hype all year. If he's consistent, he's starting, he's on Scott Drew's system. He's only going to get better in the offseason, you know? Like, him, Everyday John, Flo, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer, the 3 new recruits.
Meyer has that takeover capability.
Yeah.
Meyer has that,
it's Meyer time.
He just hit 4 threes in a row. I don't know how to stop it.
Yeah. And I don't pretend to be a sports science expert, but it feels like there is still some development physically that can happen with Matthew Meyer. He would benefit from another season in a Baylor weight room, eating program. Like, the guy, I think, still has a lot of frame that can fill out and make him just even more dominant. I mean, if he had some post-game, like if he's backing guys down, even just a little bit more than he did this year, like 10 more pounds of muscle, I mean, good night. It's Matthew Meyer time all the time.
Yeah. It's Matthew Meyer time.
Lift with Everyday John. I mean, look at that guy's work ethic. He's absolutely shredded. Get to his stature. Come on.
Was it Jay Billis that tweeted, like, Gonzaga, we have a great high-scoring offense. Baylor, we lift with the football team.
Yeah.
I love that.
Is that true?
I don't know. They might.
I mean, they look like it.
How about this? So we gotta hit it to a break here really quick and come back, and we'll break some more things down. I like the draft talk. We'll come back with some draft talk on Matthew Meyer, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Drake Toll, J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Sims, Andrew Robertson. Don't go anywhere, because this right here is Up Tempo.
History, consider yourself made. For the first time in Jersey Day history, the Baylor Bears are NCAA champions in men's basketball. Let that sink in. Centering around Baylor basketball, sources reported yesterday that Davion Mitchell had declared for the NBA draft. However, King McClure clarified via Twitter that he spoke with Mitchell, who has yet to make a decision. Mitchell then posted a picture to his Instagram to confirm that he will not make a decision until the middle of next week at the earliest. That said, Mark Vidal and Maceo Teague both remarked that their time at Baylor is done in press conferences earlier this season. Elsewhere in college basketball, Arizona has fired Coach Sean Miller after 12 seasons with the program. The university's athletic director said it was simply time for a fresh start. A short list of candidates for the job has circulated but cannot be verified. And Miami transfer Chris Likes has chosen Arkansas as his landing spot. His last full season, the 5'7" guard averaged 15 points, while Penn State's leading scorer Myron Jones is leaving the program to join Florida after averaging 15 points per game last season. In football, Justin Fields will reportedly get a second pro day that the San Francisco 49ers will attend. And Wisconsin is in search of a new athletic director, and it could reportedly take months before a hire is made. Outside of college, the Masters is kicking off, and some of those guys went to college. So that counts, right? I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
With your Ram truck from Allen Samuels, you may not have to plow through snow and mud or pull heavy loads, but you could. During the Big Finish year-end event, you get a Ram deal like no other. Employee pricing for all, 0% for 84, and no payments for 90 days. Ram 1500 Lone Star for Christmas. No other truck comes close. And ask about Big Finish pricing on Ram Heavy Duty and Ram ProMaster for your business. Happy holidays from Allen Samuels.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties and the time with family. Various specials available in-store and online. A variety of steak gift boxes with 4 ribeyes for $70, 4 bacon wrap fillets for $55, or 4 New York strips for $50, and all come with steak butter. Fall snack box for watching a game or wrapping presents or hosting people at your house, including summer sausage, split horn, and jalapeno cheese and salted crackers for only $35. 2 pieces of lobster tails with herb butter and 2 bacon wrap fillets for $60. Order online or call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive. Waco Custom Marketplace has a full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. Plus, what you want with pork, poultry, seafood, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'm Drake Toll, J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Simpson, Andrew Robertson.
I feel like we're a band.
That might be my favorite part of the show every day.
That was awesome.
That is like, I don't know if there's a word for that. Is there a word to describe what that is?
Awesome.
Immaculate?
Adrenaline.
Elation? Okay.
National titles.
It's a championship game, Alex. Let's take a
game, Alex.
I love that. Let's take a poll in the room. Who here watched Reading Rainbow in high school?
Oh, yeah. High school, ooh.
Maybe like middle. Okay, yeah. If you watch Reading Rainbow in high school, you have problems. I also watched Reading Rainbow.
Give me a little bit of context.
Take a look. It's in a book.
Never watched
Reading Rainbow.
I went to public school, but I did not.
Freaking Rainbow?
Never heard of it.
Not even before high school? Before high school, y'all didn't watch that? Like Rainy Day, Recess?
I watched a lot of Magic School Bus.
Okay.
A lot of
I never even heard
Magic School Bus.
Seeing it. I never even heard of Reading Rainbow till Drake told me about it this morning.
It's Shaka Khan.
Yeah,
Shaka
no
Khan
kidding.
sings the theme song.
Shaka Khan?
Shaka Khan sings the theme song.
I did not know that.
And
Shaka
LeVar
Khan,
Burton
of course.
hosts. LeVar
Wait, so
Burton.
it's a show?
Dude, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Dude, I couldn't.
Was it live action?
I couldn't name any of those people, but
Yeah,
I did know
kinda.
Reading Rainbow.
LeVar Burton.
Shaka Khan. The only
Sings-
reason I know who Shaka Khan is because she was in a Phineas and Ferb episode.
She was? Wow.
Goat show.
Dude, I bet Reading Rainbow won some Emmys.
Reading
Let's look it up.
Rainbow.
Let's look it up. Let's look it
Stop
up.
singing.
It's so catchy.
Take a look.
It's in a book.
Reading Rainbow.
Don't worry, Armstrong. I've never heard of it.
He's gonna mute both of our mics, and it's the Armstrong and Andrew
Feels
show.
like we're on Around the Horn, where
Why
they,
don't
where
we
they
do
mute
that?
them. Like Tony Reali mutes the people and they lose points.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we have like Andrew and Armstrong on the next show? You guys can do the morning show.
Wow.
The Andrew and Armstrong show. Wake
The
up.
A&A.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Andrew and Armstrong here.
The Double A show.
Yeah. You guys
Get your
I can
batteries
listen to that.
charged with double A in the morning.
What?
You know what I'm saying?
That's off the dome.
Off
This
the-
guy,
off the
we
dilly
gotta
dome.
double whatever we pay you. Quadruple it.
If I
love
took
that.
over the show,
Quintuple
the
it.
questions I'd ask the callers would be interesting.
Okay, check this out.
Call
Anybody-
in if you kiss your immediate family members on the mouth.
Mike Leach, very like Mike
What?
Leach question.
Okay.
If you're a pirate, who would you be?
I want
If
to.
you
Okay,
do that,
so
I want to know.
I just looked it up. Spoiler. Okay, how many Emmys do you think Reading Rainbow has won?
0.
Okay,
Wait, I mean, by that question.
so
I feel
it's
like
it's
wrong.
won. It's won some Emmys. How many do you think it's won?
7.
One Emmys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Reading Rainbow was a
All right, so they just give,
Spoiler. It's won a lot of Emmys.
they just give Emmys to
7.
anyone these days.
It's
Um,
won
They do give Emmys
26
to
Emmy awards.
Reading Rainbow.
26
won
Emmy awards.
26 Emmys.
10 of which were the most outstanding children's series.
The only reason I know who LeVar Burton is because of Community, the show.
Yeah.
Well, he's famous because of Reading Rainbow.
Jack Wheeler,
I
our
think.
father, says,
think.
I have failed Armstrong as a roommate for not showing him Reading Rainbow. Take a
all right, hold
look.
on. I'm gonna search it up. Maybe
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
seen it.
Hold on.
Donald
Y'all are
Glover.
embarrassing yourself.
Donald
I am
Glover
really?
cries in the show Community, singing Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, it's good. Really good. He's like in the. I forget the context of that, but it's really good.
Because he's so scared of LeVar Burton.
Is that what it
Community.
is? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because Pierce pays LeVar Burton to come to the hospital when Pierce is on his deathbed, and LeVar comes to meet Donald Glover and Childish Gambino, and he's just scared to death.
I will say I have no idea what Reading Rainbow's about.
Okay,
like I
now,
remember the
LeVar
first time I remember
Burton
watching
is-
it. I have no idea what happened in any episodes.
Did you know?
He's going to host Jeopardy, I think.
That's what I am just now saying.
like long
LeVar
term,
Burton wants
Breaking
to,
news.
not just Aaron Rodgers hosting.
He like long term he wants to, because of his Reading Rainbow success, he thinks he can get the Jeopardy job.
Yeah,
I mean, he has 26 Emmys.
He has 26 Emmys. That's 26 more than any of us have
Crazy.
combined.
I never heard the show.
It's time for me to
Life.
confirm that I have never seen a second of Reading Rainbow
Wow.
ever. Never.
Interesting.
So
Wow.
Maybe-
I'm sure we got listeners out there that have seen
Hero,
Reading
you're a
Rainbow.
legend.
maybe school system
You're
failed
a
me.
legend.
I mean, I watched Miss Frizzle like every other day. it
All my
feels like,
homies never
but-
heard of Reading Rainbow.
Dang.
Did anybody ever watch Read Between the Lions?
Between the Lions.
No.
Between the Lions.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
You went to
Take
high
a
school
look
in California.
between the lines.
We're the same
You
age.
went to, yes.
Dude, I saw. Yeah, dude.
You went to
those
school in
let's go.
California.
It's
That's
great.
the thing, though. He went to California, which is about, I don't know, 10 years ahead of Arkansas. So by the time you're watching it, by the time I got to third grade, that's when we started watching it.
So
these folks are all in new school stuff.
All of the things that I've seen
New
of Between the
school-
Lines,
new school
Reading
stuff?
Rainbow is from Georgia.
New
So
school
maybe
stuff.
it's a Southeast
No,
thing.
Magic
Maybe
School
it's
Bus is
regional.
new
It might be
school?
regional.
Very reasonable.
I did
Between
not
the
have
Lines
new
is
school
great,
stuff.
though.
Between the Lions is great.
Between the Lines is really good.
Oh, I've seen
what's
this
the guy,
one.
the cliffhanger guy? The word cliffhanger
Oh
guy?
yeah.
Yes!
That's funny.
Yes!
That's awesome.
I think it's the same show. I think it's like the intermission of the Read Between the Lions.
It like happens in a
You know,
library.
actually,
right?
this explains a lot.
This does explain a lot.
Why?
Why? We have such great chemistry because we know like popular culture references for children.
No, it explains a lot about your early education.
Okay.
I mean, y'all know
And that
music.
explains a lot
and
about
Drake and I know
the way you operate now.
I mean, y'all, meaning you and Drake, know music, and Drake and I know.
Yeah, I know a ton of music.
Drake knows everything.
I know everything that is about popular
You
culture.
do know a lot about pop culture.
About that one show. Oh shoot!
I don't know much about pop culture.
Really.
That's true.
Culture.
Wow. What's the one?
And I'm proud. And I'm proud of that.
That's that. Okay, it's the one. It's the show that has
The
like
show.
the. Also, you know what I found out yesterday? This is like so off topic. But
Hit me.
that if someone has a mustache and it's kind of like, you know,
like Drew Timmy.
Yeah. What would you call Drew Timmy's mustache?
Oh yeah, I was looking for it. And I don't know if handlebar's more when it's like more up, right? I would say
no,
it's.
it's Oh,
I
okay.
thought handlebar was like Mario and Luigi kind of stuff.
Okay. I just texted you.
I
a link,
Google searched
Armstrong.
it and I
I'm
couldn't find
filibustering
it.
until you can play this link.
I was searching for.
Texted it to me.
texted
That's
it
the
to you.
worst way to get to me.
So I searched Pecos Bill mustache.
Okay.
Trying to find Drew Timmy's like lookalike to make something funny on Twitter. Couldn't find anything. So I genuinely have tried to answer this question myself with the internet and can't.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. It's moot point.
I was wrong.
Okay.
Handlebar is not what I thought it was.
Wow. Okay, so there's another video Armstrong's pulling up right now that I want to see if you guys have seen this.
I'm very far away from pulling it up.
Wait, what's it called though?
How far away?
What's it called?
It's called Eyewitness Intro Opening Theme.
Oh, dude, we're on the same thing. I know what you're talking about.
Do you know?
I know 100%. I already know what you're talking about.
No
with
way.
the white backdrop and the birds flying, dude. Yeah, it's so good. What's that?
It takes back. Yeah, yeah, and it takes back so many memories.
Smells like Cheez-Its and pizza parties.
Oh, it smells like hot chocolate and watching Polar Express.
That's so
fun. I hate it.
Wait, what's the mustache called though? Because I actually really do want to know.
I'm looking at an image, or I was looking at an image.
Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu.
I was
okay.
I also see a horseshoe as an answer for this. If it's a little, I mean, his is kind of like very straight.
Close.
I bet that would get you there.
We're reasonably close.
Okay. Because we're going to watch this and then we're going to go to break and Jerry Hill joins the show. And Jerry Hill's going to be so big. He's going to be so much a part of the documentary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love his.
Tell me what that's from.
I feel like
that's one of
those
the craziest
videos
part.
are legit.
You can't tell me that all of your dreams don't somehow take place in that building.
Boom.
Why
does it exist though? Like, if you were asking me, if you're like, hey, you ever seen that? Like, you're like, describe it. Put a name to that. You can't.
Night at the Museum Animal
What do you
Edition.
mean, put a name to that?
Like, if someone says, like, what are you talking? Like, you're trying to describe that to someone else. Birds, white hallways, camera floating.
The mental institution under the White House.
Like,
in
I can
DC.
say, like, reading Rainbow, and it just triggers. But there's not a single, like, term that just.
Straight jackets, flutes, and education.
Boom. That's it.
That's a good title.
I'm Drake
Word
Toll, J.D.
association.
Pickell, Armstrong, Senna, Andrew Robertson. When we come back, Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider, joins the show to talk about the national championship win. If there's anybody that's going to talk about it, it's got to be Jerry Hill. This is Up-Tempo.
History, consider yourself made. For the first time in Jersey Day history, the Baylor Bears are NCAA champions in men's basketball. Let that sink in. Centering around Baylor basketball, sources reported yesterday that Davion Mitchell had declared for the NBA draft. However, King McClure clarified via Twitter that he spoke with Mitchell, who has yet to make a decision. Mitchell then posted a picture to his Instagram to confirm that he will not make a decision until the middle of next week at the earliest. That said, Mark Vidal and Maceo Teague both remarked that their time at Baylor is done in press conferences earlier this season. Elsewhere in college basketball, Arizona has fired Coach Sean Miller after 12 seasons with the program. The university's athletic director said it was simply time for a fresh start. A short list of candidates for the job has circulated but cannot be verified. And Miami transfer Chris Likes has chosen Arkansas as his landing spot. His last full season, the 5'7" guard averaged 15 points, while Penn State's leading scorer Myron Jones is leaving the program to join Florida after averaging 15 points per game last season. In football, Justin Fields will reportedly get a second pro day that the San Francisco 49ers will attend. And Wisconsin is in search of a new athletic director, and it could reportedly take months before a hire is made. Outside of college, the Masters is kicking off, and some of those guys went to college. So that counts, right? I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up-Tempo.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
What you do in privacy is your own business. What you do in public with your truck, well, that's our business at Pickup Outfitters. In your garage, it's okay for your truck to parade around in the nude with no accessories. Hey, this is still America. But when you bring your truck out in public, it's just common decency to put an outfit on your truck. And that's where we come in at Pickup Outfitters. Put a cover on that bed. Cover your rear end with a bumper and a hitch, for goodness sakes. There are women and children on the roads. And guys, don't leave your tools exposed. Put them in a toolbox. Be proud of your truck and stand tall with a lift kit. Or improve your truck's posture with a leveling kit. Add some class to your pickup with new wheels and tires. Or dress up for a date with your new RV or boat with a fifth wheel or a receiver hitch. At Pickup Outfitters, we're dedicating to making the roads decent for all Central Texans. So when taking your truck out in public, remember your manners and accessorize it properly with an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Cynthia, Jesus died for our Cynthias.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Julia Roberts, Julia Love.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll.
All right, welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Jersey, everybody. The first Jersey after a Baylor Bear National Championship, 86-70. You can tattoo that score somewhere on you. Baylor National Champions over Gonzaga. And on the show today to help us break it down, the history of Baylor, talk about all of it. Jerry Hill. He was here in 1948 when Baylor actually went to the national championship. He had just, you were telling me, Jerry, in the break, it was your 40th birthday the same day as the game. Is that right?
Thanks, Drake. Thanks for aging me a little bit. Usually I count on my son, Jonathan, who used to work in athletics. I usually count on him to kind of bump that age up a little bit, but you've taken it to a different level there.
Glad that I helped fill in that role for you at least some of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Tell us, though, Jerry, here's where I want to start. And most of the guests that we have started with over the last couple of days, it's been, kind of their emotions and their feelings with Baylor winning a national championship. You've covered them for, the better part of 3, almost 4 decades. I mean, right there at 4 decades. Just take me back to the Dave Bliss scandal. Because I tell you what, a lot of folks like to tiptoe around that time, but there is not the Scott Drew building job without that taking place at Baylor. Take me through that and how that juxtaposes to today.
Yeah, the thing I remember, Drake, and of course I was working at the Waco Trib at that point. I wasn't at Baylor yet, but the thing that I remember is, all the press conferences over at the law school and just, it was really a dark day, and just so much going on. And how do you recover from this? I remember Kim talking about when they won the first national championship in 2005 that their message was, we're going to be the shining light. And they were. That was just, a year or two removed from all that had happened. So, yeah, it was rough. And you're thinking, are they going to drop basketball? Where do they go from here? And I think the expectations, at least, externally, was that, who can they get to take this job right now? And honestly, there was a lot of, celebrating and a lot of excitement when Dave Bliss was hired just because of what he had done in the past. But now, where do you go from here? Because what coach is going to take this? How low are you going to have to go? And to get a guy like Scott Drew, and certainly he was not a name back then. He was not a proven commodity. But just the fact that he was coming from a program like Valpo, had been with his dad for a long time, so he had that basketball lineage. It just seemed like you didn't know for sure. He's 32 at the time, but you're like, man, how did you hit this home run with a 32-year-old coach on the rise? Why would he come here?
Jerry, talking about, Scott Drew and really the transition for him into Baylor, what do you remember about that hiring? I know there's some guys that talked about players that talked about, man, this guy's our age. What do you remember about Scott Drew coming into BU?
Well, and I will say he looked incredibly young. I mean, you can go back to the opening press conference and how young he looked and how he actually had a full head of hair and all that. But he did. He just seemed like this boy. But, man, he did bring excitement even in that first press conference. But you didn't really know who he was. You start looking and you're like, oh, wow, this guy, he's been with a good Valpo program. He learned under his dad. I don't know that there was the excitement level. And I know people have kind of joked about it, or maybe he even said it. I'm not sure how many people in that gym that day of his opening press conference in August of 2003 really believed that they were going to win a national championship with this guy. I don't know that there was anybody, maybe other than Scott Drew himself, that really believed that day, hey, these guys could win a national championship. No, they just, at that point, you just want to field the team. You hope that you can keep playing basketball, that kind of thing.
Jerry, one of the SIDs from that time that had been around the basketball program posted an article that he'd written at the end of that first year with Scott Drew. And that 3-win season of the Big 12 that seemed so monumental because most folks didn't think Baylor would win a single game, non-conference or conference. In that first season, and you can see pictures of that entire coaching staff from, Coach Moorfield to Coach Drew to Coach Tang. They all look like they're 20. And to win those 3 games seems so monumental. For the folks that don't remember that, how big was that just to get those wins under his belt?
Yeah, and I think you've heard Scott joking about it too, that they were, probably in most games they were legitimately 30 or 40-point underdogs. And you're just hoping to, hey, let's get to halftime only down 10. That was kind of the mindset. Probably not, that's not the rah-rah speech he was giving in the locker room, but that was kind of their mindset was let's don't get blown out. Let's be competitive. And I think that's what you saw even that first year is that these guys were going to play for him. You had 6 or 7 scholarship players left. There really was not much talent on that team. A lot of walk-ons, even the 6 or 7 that were left, they were not, these were certainly not 4- and 5-star recruits. So there just wasn't a whole lot on the cupboard. So for those guys to go out and actually win some conference games, it was a monumental start because you're right. I don't think anybody thought that they would win a conference game that year. None. So the fact that they were able to go out there and do that first year kind of told you, okay, maybe this guy knows what he's doing. But I think it took a long time for people to really appreciate Scott as an X's and O's coach. I think it was, as he started bringing players in, they recognized him as a recruiter. They recognized him as a guy that could go out and get some talent. But they never, for the longest time, they didn't see him as an X's and O coach. And I think that was something he did learn along the way and put people around him to help him in that area too, that, he became a guy that, he can coach in games. He can actually, he can win games on the sidelines, not just out on the recruiting trail.
Jerry, we've heard from a lot of people who talked about Scott Drew's opening press conference that thought, man, this guy's just blowing smoke. Every coach comes in and says we have national championship aspirations, and they last about 3 years. Whereas now 18 years later, here Scott is at the top of the world. When did you know personally, hey, this guy is legit. He might actually have something cooking here?
Well, I can't say it was right off the bat for sure. I think, certainly as he gets them to the NCAA tournament in 2008, so it, even then it took him, basically 4 or 5 years to get him to that level. But when you think about where they were, to just get him to an NCAA tournament was a monumental task. So I think you start thinking then, hey, this guy might get us to a different level, that kind of thing. And then obviously, when you're that close in 2010 and 2012 to the Elite Eight, losing to the eventual national champions, I think those years in particular told you they're that close. Because, I don't know that we necessarily appreciated it or really even recognized it during that year. But then when you look back, you were like, like I said, when Duke goes and wins it, when Kentucky goes and wins it, but you were that close to beating Duke. When you see what they did and they went on and won it, you're like, wow, that could have been us. That could have been us in the Final Four. So you knew they were close. But then I think, Drake, some of the things, we're not that far removed from those first round exits either, in the back-to-back years to Yale and Georgia State. So those were kind of, knocked you down a little bit. You don't make the NCAA tournament one of the years. But, certainly in these last couple of years, this was maybe the first time where you started believing that these guys were legitimately one of the best teams in the country and could win a national championship. I think they could have won it last year. I think this year proves it, but I think they could have won it last year, and had some really good pieces on that team that weren't here this year. So, yeah, I think they could have won it last year, and obviously this just kind of stamps it. But, I would say even as far back as 2008, when you get them in the NCAA tournament, I think that's when you had to start believing that this guy could get it done here.
Jerry, you read my mind a bit there. The next where I wanted to go with Scott in this program are those buffer years that it seems like. And I know that's a kind of a weird thing to say when you put it in historical perspective, but when you think 2012, that Elite Eight run, all the way up to now this season, that's almost a decade where Baylor never made it past the round of 32. So in those years, and folks, they don't talk a lot about it because now you're on the top of the world. Why talk about that? I mean, what does it say about Scott Drew that he held on? A lot of coaches want to get a restart when they seem to kind of hit a wall, but Scott stayed and held on.
Yeah, I think they did make a Sweet 16 one of those years, Drake. I believe it was maybe 2016, 17, something like that. So they did
South
make
Carolina year. That's right. That's right.
You got to be pretty good there. But, and I too, I'll give credit to Baylor. Some people, even in those early years, if you didn't like where the program was going, you could have pulled the plug early. I could see other schools doing that. So I think Baylor staying loyal to him, and certainly when you get those first round exits, you get people chirping and stuff. But you know what, Scott, his faith, his confidence never wavered. I really don't believe so. And I think to his credit too, Drake, I think he's kind of changed even the way he coaches, even, the stuff that he runs. He went from, basically strictly a zone team with those, big, long, anchors in the front court. And he's gone to, certainly more of a backcourt oriented team, but also a team that plays incredible man-to-man. So most coaches, you don't see them, transition like that. So I give Scott a lot of credit too for that, for kind of recognizing, what he has and adapting and adjusting to that. Because a lot of coaches, hey, if you're good in the zone and that's what you do, then you stick with that. Jim Boeheim, for example. But Scott was like, these guys are going to be better in man-to-man. And these guys, they're going to get up in your grill and all that. And honestly, I don't think this year you win with a zone defense, but you won with a man-to-man, and you won with a man-to-man that was just relentless with all those guys.
Jerry, Baylor history. I mean, you talk about games even in the modern history, the last 10 years, baseball and that super regional against Arkansas, Bryce Petty trips to the 1 yard line. I mean, there are those moments. You could go back to like a week ago, the foul in the women's game, the Quincy Acey foul in the Duke game. It just seemed inevitable that being a Baylor follower, a Baylor fan, someone that's around the program, that somehow just that aura around the program, Gonzaga was going to find a way to come back. Was there ever a point in time, maybe not even the Gonzaga game, but in this tournament where you thought, all right, Baylor's going to Baylor at some point?
Yeah, and that term has been brought up. I guess Baylor being Baylor is going to be winning a national championship now. But, Villanova, I think, was one where, it was like, man, they just didn't look good that first half. You're down 7. But I felt like, from the second half of that game through the national championship, I don't know that there was ever like any serious doubts. Being that having a little bit of that Baylor negativity, sure. I mean, when Gonzaga cuts it to 9 in the second half, I'm like, okay, let's shut off the spigot. This is okay. That's good. We let Gonzaga have a little bit of a run, but let's go. So, like I said, I think the Villanova game might've been that one time where I was like, is this the end of the line? But to their credit, again, that second half against Villanova. And then when you look at the first halves of some of those games, just unbelievable. Houston, Arkansas, certainly the Gonzaga game. I mean, they just, like I said, once they got through that Villanova game and that was a battle, I think they just kind of took it to another level after that, and they just weren't going to get beat.
That's one of the crazy parts of that Gonzaga game for me is there's a point, Baylor's up by 13 in the second half. Jalen Suggs gets an and 1. And it felt like that was the moment where, oh, man, Gonzaga's coming back. And you look at the scoreboard, it's still an 11-point game. I mean, Baylor still had a double-digit lead in that game. And that's one of the things that really all the folks in the national media have talked about, local media too, how dominant Baylor was. I mean, Jerry, you're the Baylor Bear insider. I'm sure you still couldn't have seen that coming like it did.
Yeah, and to your point, in that second half, and that was one of those moments. But the one that I was like, okay, now they've got it, was when Vital had that block and then scored down, and we scored down on the other end. I believe Jared passed out to Flagler for a 3, and it's back to a 16-point game. But if you think about it, if Kispert had scored on that layup, maybe even gets an and 1, and you're down to 11 or 10 points. But when they shut that off, and that was such a huge momentum play, that was kind of when but yeah, the way they played down the stretch, and they just kind of answered, that was what they did in that second half, was every time that Gonzaga would, kind of threaten, get a little bit close, Baylor answered. And that's, to their credit, that's what won them the national championship. Was they just weren't going to let Gonzaga come all the way back. They knew Gonzaga was going to have some runs, and they did, but Baylor never let them catch up.
Jerry, I saw the video of you dancing at the airport, and obviously that's been the thing for a while now, the Jerry Hill famous dances. But that emotion, the celebratory emotion for you, when you hear the words Baylor Bears, national champions, men's basketball, all put together in the same sentence, is there a way to describe or explain what goes through your head when you hear that and its truth?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Drake, I was standing on the tarmac the other day, and I turned to somebody and I said, I know it shouldn't feel this way, but it still feels unbelievable. Like, and I remember back in 2005 when the women won it for the first time, and it felt a lot like that. This was even more so, though, that it's like, are we really national champions? And then when you see Scott walk off the airplane carrying the trophy and looking like this little kid on Christmas Day, I think that was that moment where it really kind of hit me in the gut. My gosh, Baylor men's basketball is the national champion. So that was a lot of emotion, and I could see it in the crowd and just people standing by. It was kind of a cool moment. I'm sure there were a lot of people that even felt it that night, but that was that moment for me where I was like, wow, Baylor is the national champions.
Wow. In the history books, cannot be taken away forever. Who won it in 21? It's Baylor. It's tough to fathom for myself. I know all of us in the studio have talked about when is it going to completely set in, and then maybe it won't until they get those rings on that first home game. But Jerry, last question for you before we get to our Bear games. And folks have mentioned this, and I think it holds true when you look at history and when you compare everything that's gone on in the last 6 or 7 decades with this program. But would it be safe to say that this is the biggest game, the biggest moment, I should say, in Baylor sports history?
I think it is. I mean, and people are, Lady Bear fans are going to argue with the 05 and maybe even the 12 team going undefeated. But in terms of one game, one moment, I think this was it. Football has won back-to-back Big 12 championships. They played in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago. I don't think there was one game with those teams that was like, this is this big a moment. When you're one of the last two standing and you dominate the game, I don't think there's any better feeling than that. And to do it on that national stage and that spotlight in a year that we've had, when we needed it, Waco needed it, college basketball needed it. It was just a really cool moment. And yeah, I think you're right, Drake. I think this is the biggest game, the biggest moment in Baylor sports history.
Wow. We're all here for it. We're all alive for it. Jerry, we've talked about those like Butch Henry, that would have loved moments like this, and the Bear fans that, do or die. I mean, as good as they were or as bad as they were, it didn't matter, that just cheered on, supported, and stayed by this team throughout the years. Jerry, last question for you here. There's going to be a documentary or a movie or a 30 for 30 or something. And I know we joked around. I'm sure that you'll be a part of that in some capacity. You've got to be for as long as you've been around these programs. But if you were going to name it, it's our Bear Games question of the day. If you're going to name the documentary or the movie, what are you going to name it?
I may have to give that one some thought because, the thing that comes to mind is, this is a bad way to put it, but from the ashes, rebuild, something along those lines. I think the term that Jim Nance used the other night was rebound. But I mean, just the phenomenal, because I think you have to take it all the way back to 03 and carrying forward. So I think it's along those lines of, this unbelievable rebuild, like I said, basically from the ashes, because this program was dead, and Scott Drew brought it back to life and took them to a national championship.
Wow. Jerry, I know we joke here and there, and I'm sorry if I go a little bit too far on the age, but I'll tell you what, it really is an honor to have you on and to get your perspective on the history of Baylor sports, because very few, if any, have followed it as closely as you have for so long. So I want to thank you for bringing that perspective, because it really is. I got chills 2 or 3 times there, so thank you so much for doing this today.
Thanks, Drake. I enjoyed it, buddy. Have a great day.
I love it. You too. Again, that's Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear insider, joining the show talking about Baylor's national championship win. How about this? Kendall Kaut joins the show coming up after this break. Kendall is already in the works of a new book to describe Scott Drew and Baylor's national championship. Kendall joins us after this. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
History, consider yourself made. For the first time in Jersey Day history, the Baylor Bears are NCAA champions in men's basketball. Let that sink in. Centering around Baylor basketball, sources reported yesterday that Davion Mitchell had declared for the NBA draft. However, King McClure clarified via Twitter that he spoke with Mitchell, who has yet to make a decision. Mitchell then posted a picture to his Instagram to confirm that he will not make a decision until the middle of next week at the earliest. That said, Mark Vidal and Maceo T both remarked that their time at Baylor is done in press conferences earlier this season. Elsewhere in college basketball, Arizona has fired Coach Sean Miller after 12 seasons with the program. The university's athletic director said it was simply time for a fresh start. A short list of candidates for the job has circulated but cannot be verified. And Miami transfer Chris Likes has chosen Arkansas as his landing spot. His last full season, the 5'7" guard averaged 15 points, while Penn State's leading scorer Myron Jones is leaving the program to join Florida after averaging 15 points per game last season. In football, Justin Fields will reportedly get a second pro day that the San Francisco 49ers will attend. And Wisconsin is in search of a new athletic director, and it could reportedly take months before a hire is made. Outside of college, the Masters is kicking off, and some of those guys went to college. So that counts, right? I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
With your Ram truck from Allen Samuels, you may not have to plow through snow and mud or pull heavy loads, but you could. During the Big Finish year-end event, you get a Ram deal like no other. Employee pricing for all, 0% for 84, no payments for 90 days. Ram 1500 Lone Star for Christmas. No other truck comes close. And ask about Big Finish pricing on Ram Heavy Duty and Ram ProMaster for your business. Happy holidays from Alan Samuels.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties and the time with family. Various specials available in-store and online. A variety of steak gift boxes with 4 ribeyes for $70, 4 bacon wrap fillets for $55, or 4 New York strips for $50, and all come with steak butter. Fall snack box for watching a game or wrapping presents or hosting people at your house, including summer sausage, split horn, and jalapeno cheese and salted crackers for only $35. 2 pieces of lobster tails with herb butter and 2 bacon wrap fillets for $60. Order online or call in advance to ensure availability, or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive. Waco Custom Marketplace has a full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. Plus, what you want with pork, poultry, seafood, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
I got breaking news here. We got Western Athletic Conference just announced they're adding several schools.
The WAC.
The WAC.
Okay. Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
I think Coach Gundy would be like my guy that I would just like just a hair. Yeah. I just want to be able to see it flow when I kind of slam his arm down.
Here's Drake Toll.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's the first Jers Day. The very first Jers Day post Baylor winning a national championship. We've never been able to say that. That's never been said. That's the first time those words have been uttered in history, and we get to say it this week. Helping us celebrate it, too, we got Kendall Cout today, who's wearing is that a tuxedo shirt, a suit shirt, or is that just like an actual starched? Oh, okay, so it's real.
It's an actual one. I someday might get a tuxedo shirt, but for today, I got the real deal, kind of. A cheap brand.
I love it. I love it. Kendall, we just had Jerry Hill on, Baylor Bear Insider, who has been covering Baylor for about as long as, it's 83, he said, 83. And he's one of those guys that certainly will be a part of the documentaries, the movies that end up coming out about this team, this program, and where it's come in the last couple of decades. For you now, you've got a book. Not only that, you had it within hours of Baylor winning the title. You were, hey, here, boom, book coming out. Walk me through how that even started.
Sure. So I appreciate Drake. Always good to be on Up Tempo. Great show. For me, I'd gotten reached out to by a publisher just a few weeks ago that was kind of like, hey, we're looking at doing kind of an instant championship book that they do. It's Triumph Publishing. The book will be called How They Drew It Up. It's about Baylor's 2021 basketball championship season. As we all know, the Bears won the title. No shocking news being broken on Up-Tempo today. The Bears are indeed champions. And so they reached out. They said, here's kind of the book deal with kind of where I was and what was going on. Ultimately, it felt like the best thing to do at that time. And then I was able to get Scott Drew to write the foreword to the book. So we'll have that coming out. And there'll be some new nuggets, even though it's an instant book. And we'll kind of reformat some of the profiles I've done of Jared Butler, Mark Vidal, Davion Mitchell, Matt Meyer. It will also include some new nuggets about the Houston game, the Gonzaga game, and then a kind of introduction that I think sums up the season well, or at least I hope I've achieved that for such a good team.
Kendall, obviously, for me, I'll say, it came as a shock, and I'm sure it did for most, that so quickly, like, hey, championship win, boom, book. With that quick of an announcement, and now you're talking about a quick turnaround, how quick will the turnaround be for the book to drop?
Yes, great question, Drake. The book will be released on April 19th. Folks that want to buy the book now and pre-order it, because we've had a pretty good run of pre-orders, they tell me, but I know nothing about the book industry really, so maybe they're lying to me. But they've said that the book will be released on April 19th. You can buy it right now at Triumph Books. I've got a link on my Twitter account, other links online, but if you just search How They Drew It Up, it'll populate. You can buy the book ahead of time. Then the Baylor bookstore, I think, bought 400 copies already. And we're looking at maybe doing a book signing in a couple of weeks there. We don't have a firm date yet. It'll probably either be April 27th or that following Saturday is, I think, the most likely ones. But as soon as I have that, I'll let the people know.
Oh, my goodness. 400 copies. I mean, that's period, without anybody else buying. I mean, so obviously it's going to be well over 1,000 to start. At least, holy cow, I can't imagine how many books. So, Kendall, basically the next time you come to Waco, Diamondbacks is on you.
I don't know that anybody will buy it. There might be 398 copies of my book at the booth at Diamondbacks with me.
I love it. I love it. Kendall, you kind of talked about how this came about with the publishing company, and your writing has obviously been a staple, not just of this season, but in seasons past for Baylor, but really the growth of every local outlet as more folks want to know more about the inside, in-depth look at Baylor basketball. And your pieces are so in-depth. Like, I see every time you tweet, it's hey, this one's, 2,500 words about one player or one moment. And so really just, how did you get connected, of the Baylor writers? When were you like, all right, this is it. I want to do this for Baylor and for this season?
Sure. So I started writing about the Bears right after the scandal happened in 2016. But for basketball, that's always kind of been the sport I care about more. And so I tried to start getting connected. I'd reached out to David K to say, can I interview King McClure? Did a deep dive on him. And then from there, I did some profiles. Jared Butler and I have been pretty close the last 3 years. And as a result of that, after his freshman season, we did a really long interview. And I probably spent 20 minutes of that interview talking about, hey, how do you dribble just enough that it's not a carry, but every time you're actually dribbling, the defender thinks you picked up your dribble. And so we broke down a lot of clips. We talked about that. And then as a result of the Zoom era, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But that gave me a really easy chance to say, hey, you're at your house. Why don't you just hop on Zoom for an hour and we can talk about some clips. I'll show you the clips and we can talk about the game. And I think they appreciate that I'll break down clips with them. And so that's a little bit of a unique angle. I think if you kind of compare what do the Baylor folks bring to the beat, I think there are very unique things we all bring to the beat. You look at Jason King's story that he did after the game came out. The fact that he was able to get Jerome Tang and Mark Vidal to talk to him just hours later shows how well connected he is and how great of a writer he is. Andrew Miner, who's on the beat as well, I think does a very good job summing things up as well, has really great stories. And I think what I try and do, knowing that those guys are going to just kind of own that aspect of the beat, is try and go a little more X's and O's heavy. So I'm a little bit unique in kind of what I do, but I know they're very unique in what they do. So I think we're a really well-served beat right now. And I hope fans consume all the content we put out.
I will tell you, and this is kind of an odd sidebar. So I ran into somebody that I was sitting beside in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil, and he was like, man, you look familiar. And I was like, all right, this guy probably watches Up Tempo. And he was like, are you the guy that writes the post-game basketball articles for SicEm365? I've never heard that one before. Like, I feel like of all the people that write anything about basketball locally, I'm probably the low man on the totem pole. But to hear that and kind of that brought up, him and I were chatting about it. I put a lot of box score numbers, where were the numbers that really stood out, whether they be by the half or in the game completely. And a lot of folks get lost in numbers and X's and O's. It's the give it to me like it was as short as possible. For you, somebody that you have the adage, the Coach Count, as some of the guys here at SicEm365 would say, how do you balance that, not washing people out with X's and O's or numbers in a book like this?
And that's what I hope to do. And Drake, I did not mean to snub both you and Michael Nichols writes for us the immediate game recaps. I was just like, I got to give a shout out to Jason and Andrew since I'd not shouted them out in a while. So it did not mean any snub there. I know you do a fantastic job that if the game ends, Drake has the story out. And if you missed any of it, you get in-depth stuff, have very unique intros at the top. So did not mean to snub you or Michael Nichols, our guy who writes instant recaps. Both great jobs there. To answer the question directly, though, after I hopefully did not snub anybody, unintentional snubs is kind of what Wednesday has been for me, much like Thursday has happened. And it's actually Thursday, so I'm still on East Coast time and don't know where I am. For me, that's the tough balance, is to say, okay, if I'm writing something and I've written something 2 weeks earlier, do I assume somebody's read that piece? So, for example, Baylor runs that no middle defense for the most part, where the goal is don't let the offensive player drive into the paint or the area near the hoop, because once they do that, the help's not there as well. They're going to be either open shots or they'll have a free run to the rim. So do I assume somebody's read my article 2 weeks ago that breaks that down? How do I balance all that stuff out? Should I hyperlink it more? That's a tough challenge. That is kind of the ultimate challenge with what I try and do. Ultimately, I probably don't go enough in one direction. I try to always make sure I would mention the 5-0, Mark Vidal at the 5. And so every time I mention that, I'd say Mark Vidal at the 5. But then it's like, well, does everybody know that the 5 references playing center in basketball? So that's the challenge. I probably don't do a good enough job at it, but that's what I try and strive for. And that was a great question, Drake.
I know that was a very long way to get to my point. I try to have brevity in what I ask, but there's just so much, the art as a writer to being able to balance X's and O's numbers and not wash somebody out or wash out an article. So for you, Kendall, this season, the dream season for Baylor and what you saw from them this year, you called it. You were ready for Baylor to beat Gonzaga. And I'll tell you, when we sat on this show 3 weeks ago and picked our brackets prior to the Hartford game, I had Gonzaga beating Baylor in the national championship. After USC lost to Gonzaga the way they did, I had Gonzaga winning the national championship. But it seemed like you stuck with the Bears the whole way. What did you know that nobody else did?
I appreciate that framing. I think a few other people took the Bears as well. And I had Baylor beating Alabama, so I didn't know everything by far. But the thing that stuck out to me for Baylor is I thought their athleticism was a little bit unique compared to some other teams that showed up in the Gonzaga game, but even more to the degree that I did not expect. I think the other thing that struck me was that I thought Baylor was very undervalued. When I watched some of the clips from their defensive return, I thought they were making mistakes that were really stupid in some games. Baylor does not always face the ball defensively, but they were often not looking at the ball or their man or anybody else. The tenets of most basketball defense are know where the ball is, know where your man is. Baylor's defense sometimes requires just know where the ball is, not your man. But going back to that KU game, they didn't know where the ball was. They didn't know where the man was. And I guess coming back from COVID, it seemed like they didn't know who they were in some of those games. And so when I looked at that, I said, these are very correctable mistakes to me. So I thought Baylor would get back to playing championship level defense. And then the real kind of thing for that for me was I thought Jared Butler had missed some rotations. He is my boy. I had mentioned that beforehand. I thought he could fix that. And how good Davion Mitchell played defense on Cade Cunningham. I thought they're going to be set with Davion playing this well. Jared will fix the mistakes. And then you got Mark Vidal, you got Maceo Teague. That's going to be good enough. And sure enough, it ended up being that case.
Kendall, I kind of want to bounce back and forth between the X's and O's and you know the outside and the pageantry of what all is going on and how people in Waco are handling it and those that cover Baylor are handling it. For you and content from a content standpoint, what does this mean? I mean, as a writer and as someone that's followed this team, there are, I think I referenced it the other day, the 350 some odd basketball teams in the country. There are writers, reporters, outlets for every single one of those. And there is only one team that wins a national championship and outlets that get to cover that one team. To be a writer and reporter that's following this squad this year, what does that mean for you, your outlet, your career? I mean, all of that kind of put into one big bundle.
Sure. I don't know what it'll ultimately end up being, but it meant a lot because you both get to make connections with people that you think are going to be very successful in their future, whether it's Davion, Jared, Mark, and so many others. So I think it will help maybe the career out that way, the kind of challenge, getting tongue-tied with the C and the K being similar sounds, I guess. The challenge for me, though, will be, do I try and parlay this to writing a little bit more about basketball nationally? I've written for SB Nation in the past for their national site. Currently, they don't really pay for anybody. So hopefully the post-COVID economic boom will take off and the Baylor championship will also lead to more of a demand for Baylor basketball writing, because that's kind of where I'm most passionate about. I like Baylor football. I like writing about that some. But you'll get kind of the institutional knowledge I bring. I know a lot more about basketball than I do about football. If Dave Aranda starts going on and on about we're going to play a 3-tight formation with this, and I'm like, you know what, man, I don't know what you're talking about. But if somebody says, hey, we got to trap the baseline to ensure whatever, I'm more apt to understand what's going on there. It's like you're speaking French, though, if you're talking about football sometimes for me.
Kendall, you talked about the passion you have for basketball and now the passion you've built for Baylor basketball based on your time covering the team. I want to know the passion that Baylor basketball has for you. That Jared Butler sits down in the chair, and I loved the post-game press conference. He sit down and he goes, well, that was the last game. And then your question comes up, and just that for the last time, post-game, maybe, he just that, Kendall, what is that like to have that kind of relationship with a national championship team?
It meant a lot to me. Jared and I have talked for quite a few hours over the last 3 years about his game, what's going on, NBA draft process, everything going on with that, kind of what it's like with people that were dealing with COVID. How do you come back from that if you're a player dealing with that? So I think it was just kind of that culmination of all that experience. When he was end of that freshman season, we just went over all these plays, and I was just kind of like, man, I think you've got a real chance to play in the NBA someday, be a really good player. And, we'll see what Jared ultimately decides. I'm not going to break any news here, but if I were in his position, I'd be declaring for the draft pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And I want to go there for a second. I tell you what, though, let me start here. Going into that Gonzaga game, getting into that Gonzaga game, I want to break that down a bit with you because I love the way you're able to analyze these games. At what point, so many analysts talk about how Baylor just bullied Gonzaga from the first possession. Talk about when it was in the game where you thought, okay, this is kind of a mismatch.
That's a great question, Drake. There was a time midway through about the first half when I turned to John Warner and I said it was over. And when Gonzaga pulled within 10 at halftime, I was like, I've kind of put myself out there a little bit with saying that. But the reason I thought the game was probably over when Baylor ended up getting up by about 18, 19 points, I think, in the first half, is that it just struck me that Gonzaga did not have the speed to play with Baylor. Corey Kispert couldn't get shots off in that second half. He ended up rising up and having that travel because he just was so afraid that Jared Butler was there. And then how Drew Timme kind of got exposed in pick and rolls. It struck me that they maybe just weren't quite fast enough to play with Baylor. I didn't think that was the case. I certainly knew Jalen Suggs was fast enough to play in this game, and he showed he was. But I thought Timme and Kispert were a little bit faster than they showed out. And I think Kispert will still probably be either a late lottery or mid teens to 20s in the NBA draft. But Drew Timme, I don't know. People say, should he come back? But that's what I knew. I knew when the speed just wasn't quite there for Gonzaga. You could tell in person really well. They just weren't as fast as Baylor. I wondered if they were. I thought they probably were about as fast as Baylor, but they just didn't have the same athletic speed.
Kendall, I love that you mentioned the Kispert travel. I completely forgot about that play when he just jumps in the air and then throws the ball down and forgets how to play basketball for a second because of Baylor's defense. And right there with it, Baylor's defense, Kendall, that was the thing folks talked about. The defense wins championship adage. That has been put to the test the last few years. Folks like, but does it really? Did this prove, all right, defense wins championships?
I don't know that it did. I think that offense was probably the most important thing for Baylor in most of the games. The Villanova game would probably be the one exception. I think without the defense was necessary to win the championship, but I think Baylor played such good offense that it was sufficient, right? Baylor wasn't Iowa, so they didn't have that catastrophe of what do they do on both sides. I think they would not have won a title without being so good defensively, given how poorly they shot against Villanova. But I think the offense carried them in a lot of other games. So even if Baylor had played defense like they did after the return, they would have won every game, I think, with how good the offense was, except the Villanova game, playing as poorly defensively as they did after the return. So I think they had played such high-level offense, and Baylor ended up finishing the year number 2 offensively in adjusted efficiency. But come on, you saw what they did to Gonzaga. They have a better offense than Gonzaga's. And Jerome Tang at the beginning of the season said, I'm not worried about our offense. I think he showed that. I think that's one of the best offenses of all time.
Wow. Kendall, when it comes to the grand scope of college basketball, too, folks have mentioned, and I hate when people compare, like, oh, this is the greatest team of all time. Because put Baylor up against Phi Slamma Jamma, and who knows? The Fab Five, who knows? There have been some great basketball teams, and it's one of those sports that, you could find some of those 80s, 90s teams that are just as good as the guys out there today. But they're in the conversation as one of the best to do it. When you look at their record and just the full scope of what they did this season, why is that? What makes this team, what makes them comparable to some of those greats?
I think it's the quality of wins that Baylor had. They ended up beating every team they played this season since they beat Oklahoma State twice. They beat Kansas once. There is no team that Baylor did not beat on its schedule, which is kind of a very unique mark. And I think it is the quality of guard play. When you start comparing other eras, the thing that's going to be very challenging is that Baylor did not have a really dominant low post scorer at any time this season. And so if you want to compare, say, Baylor to 2008 Kansas, which is probably the biggest discussion point people will have going forward for maybe the best Big 12 team of all time, they'll say, well, Kansas had Terrell Arthur, Darnell Jackson, Sasha Khan. They could drive inside, or they could just get the ball inside and get an easy bucket. Challenge, though, would be if you had a time machine. I think Baylor would beat any team that's not 2015 Kentucky or later, like guaranteed, because they'd just be shocked that Baylor's going to shoot 43s in some of these games. They'd be like, wait, Jared Butler takes off the dribble threes, Davion Mitchell pulls up on people. So all that would happen, but at the same time, they'd be complaining that Baylor carries all the time if you had an 80s team. So it would be one heck of a time with the refs, with the post game. It'd be very interesting. That's why I think, as you mentioned, Drake, it's so tough to compare teams across eras. But I think this Baylor team's guards are just so much better than just about every era's guards that I think they'd have a real shot at any team they would play throughout history.
Wow. Obviously, it was the guard play that helped put them over against Gonzaga, who had dominated all season long with really good bigs and Suggs' ability to score the basketball and make plays. Looking, though, at the future, I mean, we're right here, Kendall, on the cusp of another Baylor team that's going to be top 10 caliber. When you think about guys like Kendall Brown, Jeremy Sochan that are coming in and gonna make an instant automatic impact. When you look at this team next year and say Matthew Meyer comes back, how much confidence do you have? I know it's so early, but how much confidence do you have looking at Baylor in 2021-22?
I think there's a lot of uncertainty about the team next year. It starts with what you mentioned, Drake. Does Matt Meyer return? Given, I think he would have a reasonable argument, as crazy as it sounds for a guy who played 12 minutes a game to be the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. If you don't get that guy back, that's a lot to replace. And then suddenly there's a lot of pressure on Kendall Brown to perform day one, or Jordan Turner to step up in the lineup, or Jeremy to play immediately. So that's why I think there's so many wide range of outcomes. You're also wondering, will Flagler or Cryer be the main point guard, or does Baylor maybe look at adding a transfer guard? So I think there's a chance Baylor could be a top 10 team next year. But I think there's also a chance Baylor could be a team fighting for the bubble, when this year you knew this is guaranteed to be a top 5 team. Heck, Baylor was so good that even if one of their All-American quality guards had gotten hurt, Baylor was probably still going to be a top 10 team with Teague and Flagler also in the backcourt and Cryer ready to step up, be one heck of a fourth guard. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. I think if Meyer returns, Baylor should be around a top 10 team to open the season. Maybe they won't be quite that good, but I think there's a lot of room for growth for this Baylor team. And I think Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua or LJ Cryer could really take a step up and make Baylor a national title contender again. Or it may just be that Baylor doesn't quite have somebody ready to be a lead point guard and the defense trophies compared to this season, and Baylor's more of a bubble team. So I think I have to be, kind of honest about this, that when I said I felt like Baylor was the best team in the country and would win the title, I felt, there was some uncertainty there, but I thought it was going to happen. I don't have a great sense of how good Baylor will be next year. And I would guess the staff probably doesn't have an overwhelming sense right now because there's just so many unknowns. We were talking about a freshman like Kendall Brown and other guys.
Kendall, before I get to my last question, I want to commend you because I didn't have the guts to do it. I think part of why I picked Gonzaga is the fact that I was sitting at this desk. When you're a Baylor, someone that analyzes Baylor, and I go to the school, so I get a little bit of a free pass to be kind of biased. But when you sit at the desk and you talk about sports, and I know you get this, the one thing you don't want to be called is a homer. You don't want to be the biased guy that picks that team that you cover to win the national championship. But you did it. You did it no matter the cost. Had Baylor lost in the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, you get the, of course you said it was going to be Baylor. You cover them. That's tabbed on your name. But you did it. You didn't waver with confidence, and they won it all in the end.
Yeah, that worked out for me, Drake. That would have definitely been a lot of old takes exposed. I've been arguing with KU fans on Twitter after Baylor lost the Oklahoma State game that I still thought this was the best Big 12 team of all time. They lived up to the hype. I have not heard from some of those people in the last few days. I had one slide into my DMs saying he'd let me enjoy Baylor winning the title, but he'd come back, and still I wonder, where is he? I haven't seen him in a few days, but I would assume that'll be the fight coming up. Was the 08 Jayhawk team better than the 2021 Bears? I think it's a reasonable discussion. You can make great points on either side. I watched every game of the 08 Jayhawks. I watched every game of the 2021 Bears. Maybe it's recency bias. Maybe I like Jared Butler more than I like Darrell Arthur as a person. I don't know Darrell Arthur. I just know Jared Butler, and I like him. I like Davion Mitchell a lot too. But for me, I think Baylor beat any of those teams. I felt certain enough about it to make the prediction, but I did know that if that went against me, I was going to be old takes exposed a lot, and I would have to turn myself in to wherever their offices are.
Kendall, last question for you before we get to our Bear games. I got to know, you're such an analytical person, and most of us all operate that way when we cover sports media, looking at the numbers, looking objectively at the way things went. But I know the relationship you have with these guys and this team, there's a part of you that just hoped from a fan standpoint that Baylor would win it, an emotional standpoint that Baylor would win it. So I want to know, past the analytics, past the numbers, and just bare bones, seeing those guys cut down the nets and hold that championship trophy up, what did that mean to you personally?
Oh, it meant a ton to me. Matt Meyer had opened up to me about his anxiety that kind of had impacted him in high school. Mark Vidal told me that he'd battled depression and anxiety this season. Jared Butler and I have talked for 3 years about, hey man, are you going to the NBA this season? Are you not going to the NBA? Are you going now? Davion Mitchell and I had broken down his game and kind of where was he struggling a little bit as a sophomore offensively and what had he done so well as a junior. I'd had dinner with Ashley Hodge, Malbear from y'all's site, and Jared's parents at the Yard House not too long ago. And then I'd been talking with Davion's uncle. So it's a lot of people I knew associated with the program, like David K a lot, like Scott Drew a lot, like Jerome Tang, John Jacobs, Al Brooks, all great guys. And so for them to come out this win, the graduate assistants are great. There were just a lot of people that I think are really great people that had wanted this so badly. And it was one of those deals where I think Baylor could win another national title, but I don't think Baylor will ever have a better team than this because I don't think the Big 12's ever had a better team than this. So the odds there's a better team than this one are pretty low. And when you have your best shot, you want to take it and win it.
I love it. Kendall, Bear Games questions of the day. And this is almost inevitable that Baylor is going to get a documentary, a movie, a 30 for 30. Something's got to come out based on the 2003 Dave Bliss scandal, moving all the way up to now Scott Drew winning a national championship this season. If you were tasked with naming, you've already named a book. If you were going to name that documentary or the 30 for 30, what would you name it?
So I like the pun route, and this pun won't be as good, but probably unbearleavable.
That's it? Unbearleavable? Kendall.
Yep, it would be tough. They'd be like, sir, no one can find this. And in fact, we're just being nature enthusiasts that watch the game or watch the documentary and say it's not up to par. The ratings are bad. It's all gone to trash. We'll never make a Baylor movie again. That's why they don't trust me with that kind of marketing.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Kendall. You really sold me with the entire segment we've had so far. Then Unbearleavable happened, and I just, oh my goodness. We'll cut that part out in post. And then we got the Disney movie madness that's still going on. Oddly enough, it's been washed out, the fact that Baylor won a national title. How about today's matchups? Up or Inside Out?
So once again, it's like I feel like I watched every Disney movie until about 2004 and then didn't watch as many. Yeah. So purely based on Up for the memes, I'm going to go with Up.
Yeah. That's the one Disney movie that makes you cry in the first 10 minutes. It's tough not to go with. And then here's this will be wheelhouse. Incredibles or Monsters, Inc.?
Monsters, Inc. You got to love Mike. You got to love Sully. And the superhero genre became so overdone after that it's all about the monsters.
I like it. I too went Monsters, Inc. Unpopular pick in the studio today, but Kendall, great minds do what?
They think alike, Drake.
They think alike. Kendall, thanks so much for joining the show today, talking about the book, and I look forward to talking to you again soon about whether it be recruiting next season or anything else, man. I'd make any excuse to have you on the show. We love it.
Drake, always a complete pleasure to join your show. I love it.
Gosh, dang it. Kendall Kaut from ODB, thanks again joining the show today. Inject that in my veins. The guy is so good at what he does from an analytics standpoint, breaking down numbers and reporting on Baylor athletics. And then he talked about what it meant to him for Baylor to win the game. And I love, here's one of the things that I love about being in sports media locally and being around the Baylor family locally is guys like that would consider themselves a part of the Baylor family in and around what they've done and been a part of with the program and covering the program, that even when you're the objective journalist that is here to do a job, I mean, it is a job to cover Baylor for these folks. At the same time, you build the connection with the players, you build the connection with the program, and you fall in love with what Baylor and Baylor men's basketball is all about. That is what makes this so special. You know, folks, you've got Baylor winning a national championship this year, and Jerry talked about it. I love that we had Jerry Hill juxtaposed with Kendall Kaut right there, back to back. You talk about that national championship and what it means. We may never see a team like this again. Not just at Baylor, but in college basketball with the guard play, what Baylor had this season, the depth that Baylor had this season. So to soak that in and be a part of that, to be a part of this fan base, you know, we had the conversation too, and I was telling somebody yesterday, folks, you don't pick very typically the team you root for. You know, there is something, it's not just like you wake up one day and you're like, North Carolina A&T. I like it. I'm going to root for them from now on. You don't bandwagon like that. Not for a team like Baylor, at least. A lot of folks are out there like UNC or Kansas or whatever because they just like them. Not about Baylor. Not for Baylor. That doesn't happen. So the fact that you grew up a Baylor fan, or the fact that you went to Baylor. Here's the deal. I didn't choose to go to Baylor University because they had a good basketball team. Frankly, I didn't know how good the basketball team was going to be. Nobody else did. They were ranked 25th preseason when I came in my freshman year just to rank, be up at number one and have that 23-game win streak. But these people, they didn't pick Baylor because of basketball. There are folks that live their entire lives at a school, say like in Arkansas with history, or UCLA that has that kind of history, and never see them win a title. They've got so much history, they never see them win a title. Folks that go to North Carolina for college, they go to Kansas, they go to Duke, they go to Kentucky, they go to a blue blood, and they never see their school win a national championship. They never get to know what it feels like to have their fan base celebrate together, their families celebrate together the monumental moment of winning a national title. And to be at Baylor, of all places, when that happens. How big is that? How big is that to be a Baylor Bear fan this point in time when they win a national championship? There are Bear fans that are not born yet. There are Bear students that are not born yet that'll hear about this till the end of time. And I'll tell you, the run's not over. Baylor's got a lot left in the tank in these next couple of seasons with Scott Drew's ability to create that culture of joy, to foster the culture of joy, and to bring in recruits at the rate that he's doing it. There's a lot to look forward to in basketball, but consider yourself blessed. Soak it in. Folks go to North Carolina, Duke, they go to Blue Bloods and never see their team win a championship in a decade as a student there or employee or anything following the team. But this moment in history, a time as now, Baylor wins it all, and we get to be here for it, front row seats, watching it all. That's something to be proud of. That is something to get chills over. Baylor Bears, national champions. I tell you one guy who's just as excited as Jerry Hill and Kendall Cowd about the Baylor Bears win. That's Ashley Hodge of SicEm365, someone who helped start this outlet now about 6 years ago and build it to what it is now. And now seeing the Baylor Bears win a championship, I can tell you it means a whole lot to him, a guy who was in Indianapolis for almost 2 weeks. Ashley Hodge joins the show up next to talk about what it was like to be front and center to watch the Baylor Bears take home glory and win a national championship. I'm Drake Toll. That's Armstrong Sims. When we come back, Ashley Hodge of SicEm365, the nostalgia box. Get it out. It's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
History, consider yourself made. For the first time in Jersey Day history, the Baylor Bears are NCAA champions in men's basketball. Let that sink in. Centering around Baylor basketball, sources reported yesterday that Davion Mitchell had declared for the NBA draft. However, King McClure clarified via Twitter that he spoke with Mitchell, who has yet to make a decision. Mitchell then posted a picture to his Instagram to confirm that he will not make a decision until the middle of next week at the earliest. That said, Mark Vidal and Maceo Teague both remarked that their time at Baylor is done in press conferences earlier this season. Elsewhere in college basketball, Arizona has fired Coach Sean Miller after 12 seasons with the program. The university's athletic director said it was simply time for a fresh start. A short list of candidates for the job has circulated but cannot be verified. And Miami transfer Chris Likes has chosen Arkansas as his landing spot. His last full season, the 5'7" guard averaged 15 points, while Penn State's leading scorer Myron Jones is leaving the program to join Florida after averaging 15 points per game last season. In football, Justin Fields will reportedly get a second pro day that the San Francisco 49ers will attend. And Wisconsin is in search of a new athletic director, and it could reportedly take months before a hire is made. Outside of college, the Masters is kicking off, and some of those guys went to college. So that counts, right? I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Bird Culchin Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culchin Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culchin Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culchin Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership, online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culchin Ford.
The holidays are here, and I have a simple question for you. Will you weigh as much more or less than you do right now when the holidays are over? Why not end the year in better shape than when you started and create momentum for 2021? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has numerous options for stocking stuffer gifts with gift cards for gym or tennis membership, fitness merchandise, tanning, massage, tennis lessons, and personal training. Perhaps a gift for a client, a family member, or a friend. You just need to walk through the front door to change your life. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. Spacious, clean workout room, free weights, Cybex cardio equipment, and no intimidation. A tremendous camaraderie and family atmosphere. So get the best and healthiest Christmas gift you can for someone or yourself. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Learning to navigate life in the COVID-19 world has been a struggle, and where and how to get tested has been one of the biggest challenges. Impact Health Labs has your answer. If you need mass testing for your office, church, dormitory, or school, Impact Health Labs is who to call. They will come to you, conduct the testing at your location, and have the test back within 24 hours. Most major insurance accepted, meaning your out-of-pocket cost is low. So no more waiting by the phone for days to find out the results. Impact Health Labs was founded by 3 Army licensed and credentialed medical professionals. They believe in accuracy, efficiency, and doing the job right. Call 254-744-6233 to set up your group screening today. Impact Health Labs, on-site, prompt, and accurate, taking COVID-19 head-on. Again, that number is 254-744-6233 or online at impacthealthlabs.com.
In 2 weeks now, less than 2 weeks, on Baylor's national championship run. And then Ashley Hodge, who bleeds green and gold, but is also a spectacular objective journalist and basketball aficionado.
Always objective.
Always objective. Ashley, thanks for coming on today, man. I always love getting your thoughts on not just this team, but the culture around it. So it's always great to hear from you.
Yeah, you bet, man. What a ride, huh? We had some good times in Indy.
Oh, what a ride. For the folks at home that don't know, Ashley and I got the skirt steak, and it was about the best steak that I've had in a long time, and the tres leches to top it all off. I don't quite remember what you got, but all I know is that you know how to pick a restaurant.
That was good, man. I got the same thing you got, and I'm still thinking about that meal many days later.
Oh my goodness, that was unbelievable. And the whole trip in Indianapolis, I mean, for me, it was a fever dream of less than 48 hours. I remember taking a lift to Best Buy to buy a microphone, and then, lifting back to my hotel to host a show. Like, there's so many bits and pieces that were just crazy and weird and quick, and it flew by. For you, however, though, not quite 48 hours. You got the extended stay experience.
Yeah, I was there 12 days, so I got to know Indy pretty well. And I got to say, I'm pretty fond of it. The Bears are 7-0 in Indianapolis this past year. Watched them beat Illinois, watched them beat lots of low single-digit seeds, including Gonzaga, a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 5 seed. So they like Indianapolis. I'm sure they will have fond memories of that city for a long time, and so will Baylor fans.
Wow. Ashley, I want to first start with your 12 days. You know, we've gotten on the show today some analysis from the on the court, but the off the court. I mean, your experience being someone that's followed Baylor for so long and just so wholeheartedly, getting to watch them on that stage from the first round and on. What was that like personally?
Man, it was fantastic. I've said this many times on the message boards, but I wholeheartedly believe it. You know, there's almost like a little bit of a sadness that comes after the season's over. I'm less sad because we won a national championship. Come on, that's something we will cherish for the rest of our time. But the process, is better than the destination. The journey is better than the destination. And, I'm looking forward to next year. I'm already thinking about, how's the team going to look? Who's going to be the stars next year? Can we repeat? Is that possible? I mean, the culture is so strong. The identity of these guys, the humility, the work ethic is so strong that, we're getting ranked in the top 10 in most of these preseason polls. So I wouldn't put it past this team having a really good shot to take another bite at the apple next year.
Ashley, I want to take you back to what seems like years ago when Baylor played Hartford in the first round of the 2021 NCAA tournament. Coach Gallagher and the Hartford Hawks, obviously Baylor well favored in that game, but you walk out and you get set. You see, which you weren't there in person, right? As I understand.
Yeah,
but you flip on the television, or even for those that were there, you got the NCAA March Madness mark on the court for the first time in 2 years, and the Baylor Bears squaring off the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed. Just getting to see that in general, what was that sense of pride for you?
Oh, it's great. Like I've talked to Scott Drew about this in the off season, and I've said it many times that you stack the deck in your favor when you're a 1 seed. There's a 40% chance of making the Final Four. Now it's usually because 1 seeds are great teams, and they usually are the type of team that can advance to a Final Four. But you really have a better opportunity to survive that first weekend. And we knew with this team, that because of the COVID pause, we knew that the longer they played, the stronger they would get. And Mark Vidal said it. I said it. I thought the Villanova game would be the hardest one until the championship. I thought the Gonzaga game would be much harder. But it turned out to be true. The Villanova contest was our hardest matchup. And the way they just dominated that tournament was reminiscent of Villanova 2018 and some of the great teams that have just really, made things uninteresting. And man, what a feeling to be on the right side of that. How fun was that?
Oh my goodness. It's tough to put in words still. And a big part of that, Ashley, is where we had to pinch ourselves after the Villanova win and going to the Elite Eight. Baylor had done it before, but it's been almost a decade. Like, folks don't talk about the buffer years between that Elite Eight run in 2012 and then all the way now to 2021, which, they could have done it last year, but you get a whole almost 10 years without it. I want to know, was there ever a point in time after each round, each milestone in the tournament where you just had to pinch yourself again and try to process what was going on?
Yeah, I just enjoyed. I know how hard it is to make a Sweet 16. It's not easy. Lots of great teams get upset before the Sweet 16. I know how hard it is to make an Elite Eight. I know how hard it is to make a Final Four. Many great coaches go their whole career without making a Final Four. Gene Cady at Purdue is one that was mentioned. Long careers of excellence, but never make a Final Four. So for Scott Drew and this team to achieve that is monumental, but to win a national championship, unbelievable. Did you hear the comment that Coach Krzyzewski made? Did we talk about this on your show?
I think we talked about it at dinner, actually, is what Coach K had said. Fill us all in.
Yeah, so on Sirius Radio, I just heard this secondhand, but he said in an interview that in his 47 years of coaching, he's never seen defense played like the Bears played against Villanova in the second half. It was like some defensive intensity that kind of reminded you of Leon Brick Morris back in the day, one of the Baylor's former players. But it was unbelievable. Like Davion Mitchell and Mark Vidal and Jared Butler, Maceo Teague, Adam Flagler, the whole team, Jonathan, even Matt. Matt was playing great defense. Here's a stat for you. Here's a crazy stat for you. Did you know that in that Gonzaga-Baylor matchup, the guy with the best defensive rebounding percentage and the best steal percentage per minute was Matthew Meyer on that court. I mean, that guy's playing some good defense, and to think about him in terms of defense is something that's pretty cool. I sure hope he comes back. I think he will, because he can be a star and he can elevate his stock into top 15 draft status next year. I mean, he could really be a tremendous All-American caliber player if he locks in and gets focused on next year.
Ashley, he reminds me, and I want to get your assessment of this, so kind of take a bit of a tangent here. He reminds me a lot of that guy that everybody, when you were in high school, you always played that high school that had that dude that scored 40 a game. And you knew that, like, all right, we're playing X team tonight, and this guy's going to walk out on the court, and he's going to get his 35, and we can't do anything about it. We got to beat the rest of them. Matthew Meyer, it's the man amongst boys that hits everything. Matthew Meyer, it seems like, will be that for Baylor next year, an NBA player amongst college guys, just hitting everything he wants at will. What is it going to take, though, for him this offseason to develop into that kind of consistent player?
Well, I think he needs to get a little bit more consistent with his shot. I mean, he is a good shooter, and but we've seen it. There'll be like splash air ball. I mean, he can be a little more consistent with his shot. I think just picking his spots, getting to the foul line a lot, because he's a guy that is such a nightmare to guard. That, if he tightens up his handle, doesn't turn it over on drives, which he's done a pretty good job of doing, he can get to the foul line a lot, get easy shots, make 80% of his free throws, not 59%. Come on, Matt, you're an 80% foul shooter. And then just continue to improve on defense and focus. He's improved a lot and, continue to make great strides. But if he could just dial in and focus, I mean, sky's the limit for him. I mean, he really could be a lottery pick and have a bright future in the NBA.
Without a doubt. Ashley, going back to Indianapolis, I know I want to get to in a second kind of the NBA draft prospects in this Baylor team that we're hearing more and more about as the season's now concluded. One thing that really stuck out to me, and this has helped it set in a bit. Years past, 2012, for example, Baylor loses in the Elite Eight. Anytime your team loses out of the NCAA tournament, my first thought is always like, well, I guess it's baseball season, which typically is a good thing in Baylor country, but it feels like it's still basketball season in a lot of regards. Have you ever felt this way after a basketball season concluded, where it just seems like it's extending?
No, I mean, I'm in a group chat with a bunch of buddies. We talk about that, and we're like, we love football. We like... Yeah. I mean, volleyball's about to start up. I mean, that's going to be a fun ride to watch. And then, like you say, baseball. But it's like we can't get enough of like the interviews and the replays and the highlights and thinking about next year, to where I haven't even watched any spring football coverage. I'm going to go back and watch those videos. But, normally we're so locked into spring football right now, especially after last year not having a spring. But, it is exciting, and it's a good problem to have. And it's, I think, Baylor's got it rolling. Mack Rhodes has created a monster athletic program. We got great coaches. We got great people in administration, great fans. Just need to keep building and not be complacent.
Certainly that's created a culture here. You talk about that culture that Scott Drew helps foster with his teams. And Ashley, for somebody that's followed Scott Drew for so long and has gotten to know him on a more personal level, what does it mean to see him win a national championship, a guy like that?
Well, I think, the big thing is that I think God just honored his faithfulness to, his Christian calling. He's been so consistent. First words out of his mouth, Jesus, others, self. It's not an act. I mean, it's who he is. He's, the consistency with the prayer huddles. I mean, I believe that God just honored it. And I think it's, just that consistency and faithfulness over time, and the constant, I had a preacher one time at a church say this, and it's always stuck with me. He says, you can't sow bad seed over and over again and pray for crop failure. You got to sow good seed into the ground. And that's what Scott Drew's done. He just sowed good seed into the ground. Oh man, it was tremendous. Like pregame, I was so excited. Spent some time with the Teague family, with some buddies. We were just hanging out with them at a local sports bar and getting to know them. And then at halftime, I was pretty angry. I was checking flights on Sunday. I got to admit it. I was like, I'm going to get out of here if we lose this. And I was mad. I was like, what are we doing? We got to get it going. But the second half, as one of my friends that I play pickup basketball with, he said, they turned the water off, which is an old term of, they played defense as if there's no option other than winning this game. And Davion just kind of stared death in the face and said, not today. So I think, just to see that win and that venue and to see the way we won, with a physical game, we beat teams with offense, we beat teams with defense. It's a complete team. We beat teams with depth. Obviously in the championship game, we beat teams with a superior strength and conditioning program. I think that really showed up too. So there's a lot of ways we can win, and we put it all on display.
I love it. Ashley, moving forward from that, you talked about the Villanova game, which I would say, there's some that speculate. Arkansas was the closest point margin-wise, but I'd say Villanova obviously played Baylor, I think, the best of any team in the tournament. I want to move past that Arkansas game, though, and into the Final Four, where things against Houston. Folks had mentioned, Baylor should win this game. Houston kind of had an easy road. But I honestly forgot we even played Houston when after the national championship game. Thinking back to that one, though, were you almost in shock with the way that Baylor just manhandled Houston?
Yeah, no, I expected a war, and I expected it to be under 10 points. I've seen too many Kelvin Sampson games in person to think it would be any different. But, I think the big thing is when we needed to control the glass, we controlled the glass all season long. These great offensive rebounding programs, these great, tough teams, we can match that. So even though the analytics said we weren't a great defensive rebounding team, when we had to dial in and be a great defensive rebounding team, we became one. And that's the way I felt. Matthew Meyer, Maceo Teague, Adam Flagler, Jonathan, Flo, Mark. They all hit the boards, and Jared and Davion too. It's incredible to watch how dialed in these guys were to a scouting report and being able to take away the other team's strengths. Just something it's really difficult to do. And we consistently did it all year long, and really the last 2 years.
Ashley, kind of moving into that Gonzaga game and the win for Baylor, somebody mentioned on Twitter, they said Gonzaga has 5 players out there. Baylor has 8. And it wasn't in reference to the officials. It was in reference to the defense. You look at sometimes that zone, the Syracuse 2-3, looks like there are 15 guys out there. Baylor's running a man, and it looks like there are 10 defenders at all times on the floor. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, it seems like there are more than 5 players out there, and it all starts with ball pressure. I was trading some text in a group text with Dan Dickow that played at Gonzaga and does a lot of reporting for Gonzaga. And, his comment was something along the lines of, it's depressing when, you go to the bench and you bring in Adam Flagler and there's no drop off whatsoever. So, here Gonzaga is down by 16 points, 13 points. And you think, okay, Jared Butler's going to the bench. Davion Mitchell's going to the bench. Let's make our run here. We got to make our run, but there's no drop off. Adam Flagler is just as good as these guys. And our 8 that we have, just the way they accepted their roles and the way that they just bought into, being stars in their role. You look at Thamba. Thamba was incredible in that championship game, diving on the floor, trying to dunk on people. Just walling up and frustrating Timmy. Those guys, they deserve all the accolades they get. And, and like Jerome Tang said on another podcast, there's going to be little kids emulating Davion Mitchell and Maceo Teague and Adam Flagler and Jared Butler and everybody. They're going to be looking to these guys as role models. And, as they shoot baskets by themselves somewhere in South Dakota or Oregon or Maine, they're going to be saying, Jared Butler, swish, like we used to do as little kids. So it's kind of cool to think about that as a Baylor fan.
Wow, that does put it in perspective without a doubt, just the magnitude of this championship and how it stretches far and wide. Ashley, that championship game, though, I got to enjoy it as a fan. For the first time this season that I've gotten to enjoy a Baylor basketball game from a fan perspective and not been working during the game. And I'll tell you, that 11-1 stretch, when Gonzaga called timeout at 11-1, I just remember hands on the head, just the mouth agape, and everyone around me just kind of speechless. The Gonzaga fans around us definitely speechless with how the ball game started and the way Baylor set the tone. What was going through your mind that first 5 minutes of the game?
Well, it kind of reminded me of a story in high school. I played on a team as a junior. We had 6 Division I guys on this high school basketball team. One guy that became a pro, Jerome Williams, the Junkyard Dog. And we went to play a team in Prince George's County that had Walt Williams Crossland High School. And I remember a similar deal where we got down, 15-2. And we knew we were about to get cooked, and the final score was much more lopsided than the Baylor Gonzaga game. But it's a bad feeling when you get out on the court and you think you're an equal, and then you find out real fast that you're not an equal, and that thing can snowball quick. And kudos to Gonzaga for fighting and not really making it become more lopsided than it was. But Baylor was in total control of that game from the very start. And there was at no point of that game where you felt like Gonzaga was going to have a chance to win that game.
Ashley, I mentioned to Jerry Hill, the phrase that folks say so often, it's the Baylor gone Baylor. It's the Bryce Petty tripping at the 1 yard line, or the call against Quincy Acey, or the call even 2 weeks ago in the UConn women's basketball game. I mean, you look across the span of COVID hits in the middle of a 1 seed. Baylor going Baylor. Something's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. Ashley, one of the things that I remember, though, so vividly about those moments, the BU chants that break out just after adversity strikes. Baylor loses to Oklahoma after that 28-3 lead. And then even after the game, the team's walking off the field and the whole place breaks out into the big BU chant. On Monday night, the same BU chant rang out as the clock ticked down, but for what many fans would feel like it's the first time in forever, it was that victorious BU. What did that mean? Just the emotions in that moment when Baylor got over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. Shared a man hug with Chris Fuentes, my partner in crime for so many Baylor games through the years, been sitting next to him for a long time, talked to the former coaches, Grant McCaslin, Sam Patterson, Paul Mills, Matt Driscoll, who am I missing? There's someone else I'm leaving out. But they, they were just saying, look, guys, you guys have invested a lot into this program. Enjoy this. So I think it was just kind of a surreal moment. It's hard to put into words, but I know that if Baylor wins 5, 2, 10 national championships, like let's dream big, it's never going to be as special as the first. The first is always the one that you just have those incredible memories of. And I'm so glad I was there. I know in a COVID year, it's a shame that place didn't have, 30,000 Baylor fans there, but Baylor was well represented. The Baylor fans turned out, I want to say 2-1 to Gonzaga, which was amazing considering they were an underdog. And I think it really gave our players a lift. I think they noticed the support and heard the cheers, and they were locked in from the beginning. And the fan base really didn't give them a chance to go through any of those lulls in a game that you might have in an empty arena.
It certainly was an unbelievable atmosphere. And then seeing Scott Drew hoist that trophy up after. Ashley, has it set in yet? Have you come to terms with it, grappled it yet?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely a dream come true for a Baylor basketball fan, but definitely want to put it into perspective. It's a game. It's an incredible accomplishment. How they won is more important to me than winning. I mean, how they won with class and character and sportsmanship and dignity, some of the traits that I don't embody myself, but I'm glad the team does. But no, in all seriousness, Gonzaga fans were very classy afterwards, had some great interactions with them. And it's fun to have a little good natured back and forth with other fan bases. But when all's said and done, you got to admire greatness, and Gonzaga had a great team this year, and they have a great program. And it's been a year of first, for Baylor, for Scott Drew to beat Mark Few for the very first time was terrific. I've seen, coaches retire just to avoid that loss to Scott Drew, like Roy Williams just decides this is the year because he doesn't want to get that loss to Scott Drew. Wouldn't be surprised if Mike Krzyzewski does the same thing. But in all seriousness, Scott just continues to rack up these wins against these legendary coaches. And and continue these, top 10 wins. It's incredible to think about. And, we have become a power in college basketball. And I think this thing is just getting started.
There's a reason that Kelvin Sampson would only play Scott Drew in the opening 5 years of his tenure at Baylor. There's a reason they wouldn't schedule him in the non-conference.
Kelvin Sampson's another one. Yeah, it's the first win against Kelvin Sampson as well. I remember some of those games in the early years. Scott played him tough, and he almost beat him. But OU found a way to win. But I think on Saturday that, it's interesting because those Final Four games are so much build up. But then you kind of remember the second one. You remember the Gonzaga game. You remember the Arkansas game. But the buildup is to the first one of the weekend because you just have so much time, and then such a short turnaround on that second one. Like you said, you almost forget the Houston game. But that was big. I mean, that's a tough team, and they're not an easy out. And as you saw them just crush Texas Tech earlier in the year, they're tough.
Unbelievable how Baylor ran through everybody. Ashley, last question I got here for you before our Bear games. There have been talks of a documentary and putting something together right now. I saw that on the site. Yeah. And SicEm365 kind of spearheading that. What information do you have for listeners at home on maybe what that'll look like or how folks can get involved?
Yeah, well, we're definitely not gonna do this on a shoestring budget. We're gonna do this first class, and we're in talks with guys that make their livings doing documentary films, and certainly one of the things we want. I've been talking to Willie Rick on the message board is we just want the faith aspect highlighted because we think that's what makes Baylor unique. We think that's what makes this team unique, and we don't want any documentary to be more about the scandal and just about the athletic accomplishments. We want it to tell the incredible story. You got to touch on the scandal. You got to touch on that, but you got to tell the story of the culture and the faith and the joy. That's the things we really want to come out in this documentary. So, we're in talks with people and we've got some great conversations going, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be first class. And I think it's going to be something that all Baylor Nation will be proud of.
I love it. Ashley, if you were, this is the Bear Games question of the day. This is all too literal now. Okay, but we're going to make it hypothetical. If you were to make a documentary or a movie, if there was going to be one out there, what would you, hypothetically, not set in stone, what would you name it?
The low-hanging fruit is joy. I think that just really encapsulates this Baylor program, the Jesus, others, yourself. And I was listening to some national interviews today, Dan Dockich, who's been very critical of Scott Drew in the past. And, and he made the reference. He said, this team just plays with incredible joy. Heard, Seth Greenberg, Dick Vitale, Jay Billis. I mean, it's contagious. That phrase has caught on to where the national media is like parrots. They're just like little parrots, and they're just like, this team plays with incredible joy. And it's like something that you get in your mind and it's hard to get out of your mind. And then when you see it, you're like, yeah, that's the perfect word to describe it. So I think that would be the one word that I would use to title this documentary.
Wow. I love it. Joy, the Baylor basketball story. Come on, inject that in my veins. Hey, Ashley, I got a couple of Disney movies here for you. These two though, I wheelhouse. I feel like they're in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
Monsters Inc. or The Incredibles?
Ooh. Monsters Inc. is the one I'll go with. I love the little girl that she can't stop talking. Reminds me of my daughter. So I think I'll have to go Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. Lock it in. Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for joining the show today and for coming out to dinner, I guess, on Sunday night, Easter night. That was great getting to spend that evening with you and Smokey and those guys and then watch the national championship victory.
Hey, I'm just thankful I didn't wreck on one of those birds, man. That would have been a downer, but I kept it upright the whole time.
Kept it straight, man. Hey, Ashley, again, thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to hearing from you again soon.
You bet. Thanks, Drake.
Yeah, again, that's Ashley Hodge of SicEm365.com. Spent 12 days in Indianapolis. He talked about the bird scooters. Armstrong Bird came to Waco for 24 hours, 48 hours, and the city didn't have a license or something, so they had to take them away. I think I can only imagine how insufferable this city would be with bird scooters all around the place. This is not a city built for bird scooters. Bird scooters are the bane of my existence in general. I frankly hate them. Just walk. It's a nuisance to those that are trying to walk, too. That's my bird scooter story. Sticking to it. But that was Ashley Hodge, who, we got to have dinner on Sunday night and then watch the national championship and just tell you what, you guys, sharing that moment with guys like Ashley and T-Rex, and he talked about Chris Fuentes and what it means to them, and then to look up and see Trey Wingo embracing RG3, who's embracing Chip Gaines, who's embracing Joanna Gaines. You know, it's unbelievable to think that moment, Baylor basketball, Scott Drew created that moment for everybody in the Baylor Nation and in the Baylor fandom. So, tell you what, we come back from this. There's out there, Baylor posted on Twitter their logo, the national championship logo, and they asked folks to pinpoint the 5 hidden pieces of the logo that are all engraved somewhere, hidden somewhere in what they put out. And we're going to analyze, though, because we're going to analyze those. They released a video today of the actual drawing, the creation of that logo and the symbols that are embedded into it. I want to break those down because there's some pretty cool hidden stuff there that you may not have caught the first time around. I'm Drake Toll, Armstrong Sims. Jack McKenzie's in studio now with us. And when we come back, we're breaking down what exactly went into Baylor's national championship logo, because it's pretty neat how they put it together. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
History, consider yourself made. For the first time in Jersey Day history, the Baylor Bears are NCAA champions in men's basketball. Let that sink in. Centering around Baylor basketball, sources reported yesterday that Davion Mitchell had declared for the NBA draft. However, King McClure clarified via Twitter that he spoke with Mitchell, who has yet to make a decision. Mitchell then posted a picture to his Instagram to confirm that he will not make a decision until the middle of next week at the earliest. That said, Mark Vidal and Maceo T both remarked that their time at Baylor is done in press conferences earlier this season. Elsewhere in college basketball, Arizona has fired Coach Sean Miller after 12 seasons with the program. The university's athletic director said it was simply time for a fresh start. A short list of candidates for the job has circulated but cannot be verified. And Miami transfer Chris Likes has chosen Arkansas as his landing spot. His last full season, the 5'7" guard averaged 15 points, while Penn State's leading scorer Myron Jones is leaving the program to join Florida after averaging 15 points per game last season. In football, Justin Fields will reportedly get a second pro day that the San Francisco 49ers will attend. And Wisconsin is in search of a new athletic director, and it could reportedly take months before a hire is made. Outside of college, the Masters is kicking off, and some of those guys went to college. So that counts, right? I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include food, screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains?
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Paulie, give me some of your tots. No, go find your own. Come on, give me some of your tots.
No, I'm freaking starved. I didn't get to eat anything today.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Brian, don't be jealous that I've been chatting online with Dave all day.
Your place for a Baylor take on your lunch break. Here's Drake Toll.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'll tell you what, guys. There are some shows that are great. There are some shows that are great. But I think there's a difference between great shows and fun shows. And this show today has just been fun. I mean, I think like that intro right there, the Napoleon Dynamite, the reggae music is just fun.
But not great.
This show
has been fun, but not great, like you just said.
Mediocre at very best. Honestly.
I'm just quoting you back to you.
If I was to power rank today's show with the rest of the shows, it would be, if not the bottom, second to the bottom. What's the best show we've done so far? Oh, it's easy. It's easy. It's the best hour of the show far and away that we've done.
What?
The Whack. 100%. The Whack Day was spectacular. Spectacular. That's a callback. Remember from earlier for the folks at home. No, today's show has been great and fun. I love the fact that we had the guest lineup of Jerry Hill, who's covered Baylor for 40 years. Then we had Kendall Kaut, who's writing a book on Baylor and had covered Baylor closer than maybe anybody this year, Baylor basketball. And then you go to Ashley Hodge, who's been a Baylor fan he's a lifer. And not only that, but Ashley also, SicEm365, not just contributor, he's an owner. He's an owner of SicEm365. Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line today is open, 254-339-1122. You can text me. That's my personal cell phone number. Call it right now. 254-339-1122. Call my personal cell phone. Save it in your phone. Text me anytime. That's how much I care about this show. We're fostering an atmosphere of openness and family-centered love. Wow. That's a new SicEm365 up-tempo mission statement. Scotty B, the Baylor King, says, well, I found out last night there was a guard from Pittsburgh in transfer portal that Baylor men's basketball was in top 4, but he chose to go to Indiana. Hurts to not get him, but there's so many guys in the portal. Sure, Baylor men's basketball will find a guard or two in the portal that'll be a good fit for the team. I think so. Baylor could definitely go in the portal and find a guy. Scott Drew's done a really good job of that. Maceo Teague, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Adam Flagler. Baylor's going to be just fine in the transfer portal if they want somebody. That said, when you win a national championship, it kind of puts you behind the punch a little bit, you know? Like that, just like you don't get as much time to bring guys in. Football and basketball are kind of different like that. Scotty B also says the Baylor men's tennis team plays in a match this Saturday. 2 matches Saturday, 11 a.m. against Abilene Christian, 6 p.m. against Texas Tech. The night match will have shirts given out, so shirt night. Jack Wheeler says the old PBS weekday lineup during the summer was Arthur the Anteater, I don't know, Arthur and DW, the Aardvark.
Did you say Anteater?
Yeah, Aardvark and Anteater are the same thing.
No.
Right? Really? That's news to me.
That explains a lot. This is coming from the guy who watched Reading Rainbow.
I did not watch Reading Rainbow.
I now understand.
I solely watched the intro to Reading Rainbow. Not
only did you didn't even watch it.
True. I did not watch it. I just watched the intro. People who what?
You're a poser. That's what you are.
Says it was Arthur the Aardvark, excuse me. Then it was Between the Lions, which I also watched. Then it was Reading Rainbow with shoot, I just said his name. Who is
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton.
I know more about Reading Rainbow than you, and I didn't even watch it.
Oh, that's good. And then there was Sagwa, the Chinese Siamese cat. Was that a real thing? I don't think you can do that today.
Chinese Siamese cat.
Yeah. And then there was Zaboomafoo. I forgot about Zaboomafoo.
Zaboomafoo was the bomb.
Zaboomafoo. I'm wondering where Clifford the Big Red Dog is in there, or JJ the Jet Plane. I watched both of those.
JJ the Jet Plane, obviously.
Hey, will you stop? You don't know culture. You don't know Reading Rainbow. Take a look. Jeez.
Why of all these shows, Reading Rainbow is the one that you... you're in two there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give you guys a second to respond.
I'm sorry. It just feels like you only realize LeVar Burton is from Reading Rainbow because you watched Community or something.
He's also from Star Trek. I know.
I said I only know LeVar Burton because of Community.
Yeah,
right. However,
he knows more about the scene from Community than he does about the show Reading Rainbow.
Maybe I do. He
quoted it word for word.
Terrible.
This on the River and Liquor and Wine text line says, Kyle Chandler, anything less is a travesty. Bookstore or Dick's has the shirts if you don't want to wait. That's where I'm going today. I'm actually going to go to the bookstore as soon as the show is over and get my stuff. And says, is it a coincidence that both the men's and women's teams won their first national championship in Indianapolis? Yes. Loyal texter, it is a coincidence. It is. That said, that is a coincidence. It's not like this is our plan all along. That's why COVID happened.
There's this river that runs through Indianapolis, and they all spat in the river, and that is why they won.
There is a river in Indianapolis.
Only the magical powers you got from spitting in the river.
There's a big blue whale in it, too. Did you know it's the bluest river in the world, too? Then this says, Marshall Burns says, what a great day to be a champion. Happy Jersey Day and good morning, fellas. Marshall Burns says, Jump for Joy would be what he would name that should be the name of the documentary or the movie that Baylor comes out with. How about this for the folks that are watching out there? Baylor released a video of the creation of the national championship logo that is now their Twitter, what do you call that? It's not Twitter bio, not Twitter header, Twitter profile picture. Thank you. Sorry, maybe I'm a poser. But this right here is a video that they released, and I thought this was really neat. Take a look at this. Guys, if that's not cool, I don't know what is. That is awesome. Baylor making their new logo for the national championship with the number. I love the 99. At first, I thought it was like the reference to the biblical reference that, you leave the 99 to find the one. And that's, but I think the biblical reference there is joy, the team's motto this year. Jesus, others, yourself. The joy motto that Baylor's gone with. You see on the, will you put it back up? Sorry.
Now I have to play the whole video.
Oh. So, as you can see, you get the, I wonder what the 20 stands for. I get the 21 is the year. I get the 21 is the year. But what does the 20 stand for?
It's the first half.
Where's
the Texas Star? I didn't even see
So the Texas Star is in the basketball right there. Here's the deal. The 9. Right. I didn't know. I thought they could have done the Texas flag with the basketball. You tilt the basketball a little bit more that way. You could do Texas flag. That would have been dope. That would have been really cool.
Our Texas.
No, that's Friends. And the 99, I didn't notice the 99 actually until I was in my living. I bought the flag. I bought a flag at the bookstore. And did you notice the 99?
You didn't.
I did. I
doubt it.
I bought the flag.
I don't believe you.
Here's why I noticed it. If you take that, imagine that, but tilt it. So we didn't put the flag normal way like you put a flag. We draped it. We hung it. So I was looking sideways, and the 99 was much clearer. Because look how it's tilted. Can you see how it would be very obvious if you tilted it? How the 99 is there?
Yeah, I can. Tell
That's the only reason I noticed the 99 is because we tilted the flag. Or you can tell there's something weird in the net. It's a 99. The finish line, Indianapolis. That's the thing. Like when Pam hands Creed the picture and is like, corporate wants you to find, there are 5 things different in these 2 pictures. Corporate wants you to find what they are. And then he's like, I see 3 already. And then she says, they're the same picture. For me, when Baylor was like, can you find the 5 secret things? Well, there's 4. It was the net. It was the 99 that got me. But the 14 dots at the bottom symbolize the 14 players, 14 athletes that currently are on the Baylor men's basketball team. So I thought it was neat. I thought it was a neat little tidbit there. Also, wanted to let you guys know that our show today is brought to you by SicEm365 subscriber and contributor Banson Business Services. So owned by Baylor grad, SicEm365 premium member Jonathan Green. Banson Business Services offers a full suite of business support and financial services. Banson specializes in bookkeeping, payroll, outsourced CFO services, and consulting. They can even help you with your taxes. Their business helps you run your business. Visit SicEm365.com/Banson for more information. Tomorrow's show, one of the things we're going to do on tomorrow's show that I'm excited about, I have in my phone, if I could show you, I told you guys to text me too, my personal number right now, 254-339-1122. If you can just text me right now, your name, so I can go ahead and save that, that'd be great. 254-339-1122. But I've got a bunch of pictures and videos across Indianapolis of what it was like being at the championship game. We're going to go through some of those tomorrow because one of the cooler videos that I have in here is Trey Wingo and I, the 3-second Trey Wingo video. Like if you guys can see, I'll zoom it in a little bit.
Legendary.
That's Trey Wingo and I. I'll retell my Trey Wingo story tomorrow. Look, there's Trey Wingo. Am I moving in the right direction? Nope, that's the wrong. Nope. There's Trey Wingo. Okay, I'm done. Trey Wingo, and there's me beside Trey Wingo. So as you guys can see right there, I'm on one side, he's on the other.
Beautiful.
Really good story that goes along with why that's not a video.
You told us that.
I know, I'm going to tell it again tomorrow for those that weren't listening. And we're going to go through kind of what Indianapolis was like. Also on tomorrow's show, how about Jeremiah Dickey joins us? Jeremiah Dickey joins the show tomorrow to talk about Baylor's national championship. Huh?
I said, yep, he does.
Are you affirming me?
Affirming you.
Thank you. Jeremiah Dickey, former Baylor Associate Athletic Director, who's now the Athletic Director at Boise State, will join the show and talk about the national championship run. And Mark Patterson, not to be confused with Matt Patterson. And what? And not to be confused with the guy that has 2 T's in his last name. Mark Patterson joins the show. I think he might be live in studio. We're still working on that. He might be live in studio. I want to ask Mark Patterson 75,000 things. When did you ask?
Tomorrow?
Or are you setting me up for when? Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow, Mark Patterson at looking at like 11:20 tomorrow. So Mark Patterson in studio. Just imagine, like I've got questions for Jared Butler and Davion Mitchell, who are NBA draft prospects and draft picks. They are the ones that like anchored this team to a national championship. But I have far more questions for the guy who played intramural basketball and then won a national championship after winning an intramural championship. Excuse me, sir. What was bigger? Like, he gets T-shirts for both, if you think about it.
It's for the T-shirt.
It's for the T-shirt.
Both of them are for the T-shirt.
Right. When you win it, you get the T-shirt, and that's kind of the big moment.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the culmination of my growing my facial hair out ends tonight with my first intramural basketball game. I've never played an intramural sport before in my life. At Baylor. Do I have to wear shorts without pockets?
Yes.
Really? For basketball
too? That was
an
actual challenge for me to find shorts without pockets.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go find where do I go? Best Buy?
I don't know. One of my friends just happened to have a pair.
Really?
They were super short.
That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Short.
I got a jumper. Jeez, that's tough. That is tough. I got the jumper I'm going to pull out tonight. Like half our team.
You do have a jumper?
Yeah, half our team can't go. So it's going to be like, I think we have 5 guys, maybe 6 guys. So the bench does not go deep this evening. We're like Gonzaga. Just a bunch of bums out there. One guy's got a mustache. It's me. I'm the guy that's got the mustache. I've been growing out
facial. Wax the stash.
I've been growing out the facial hair specifically for this moment. Somebody told me last night.
You've been growing out your facial for intramural basketball.
Not only that, the campaign. For those that are watching out there, it's voting day. You can go to Drake.
Is this legal?
What would be illegal about it?
I don't know.
I'm getting my free personal pub. I think my Instagram handle is Drake.Toll, but it might be Drake C. Toll. You're going to have to try both of them. And there's a link in the bio. If you're a Baylor student, you can go vote. If you're not, well, then better luck next year. Hope to see you again when we try to run it back. But yeah, it's voting day today for class president. So that's blasted all over all my social medias today. Man of many hats. I don't even like wearing hats, but here I am with all of them. How about this? What do you say, Armstrong? We do a little bit of celebrity birthdays. Celebrity birthdays! Armstrong. You know what that's from? Do you get the reference?
Celebrity birthdays, Armstrong? No.
Yeah, so when I say celebrity birthdays, Armstrong, there's a video that I watch like daily. It's when I ask you my grandma's birthday. And I was like, you better not get this wrong. And you were like, 73. I was like, no, she's 62. And you're like, oh, you have a young grandma. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like, you're fired.
I saved myself.
I was like, you're rehired. Yeah. That's what it reminds me of.
I did save myself there.
Okay, Jack and Armstrong. Celebrity birthday of the day. Sky Jackson turns 19 today. Oh, I like when Jack does it from afar and has to yell the numbers out, but fine. We can give him a microphone today. All right.
He wheeled himself over here.
He did. Sky Jackson's birthday is today.
I don't know who that is.
Sky Jackson. She's the character
Scott?
in... No, Jessie.
Is she the one from
the Jessie show,
Scott
the Disney show?
She?
No, Sky.
Jessie, right?
She's the Jessie character.
Okay, 30.
Did you just say she was 19?
Yeah. Did I?
Did you just say that?
Yeah, she's 19. I may have slipped up there.
I didn't know which one.
Hazel Busby, reality TV star Hazel Busby turns how old today?
No idea who that is.
Okay.
60.
60?
50.
Is he from like...
Try subtracting 6. Try subtracting 6 from 60. Try subtracting 54 from 60. She's 6 years old today. How about Riley Busby, reality TV star Riley Busby? Her birthday today.
7.
11.
She's 6. Put 2 and 2 together, guys. They're twins. Busby, both Busbys, reality TV stars.
They could have been sisters.
They both have the same birthday. Sisters with the same birthday. Brooklyn and Bailey
do have the same birthday. I did not think about that.
Oh, Black Youngsta's birthday is today.
Did not think about that.
Oh my gosh. Nope. Before we get to there, Ava Busby's birthday is today.
6.
4.
She's 6 years old.
Is this triplets?
Oh. Oh my God.
Have you ever heard the show 1,000 Pound
Reality
Sisters?
star Parker Busby's birthday's today.
No way.
Yep.
He's 6.
She's 6.
What is this show?
Reality star Olivia Busby is also
septuplets.
Olivia Busby's turning how old today?
6.
She's 6 years old. You guys are killing this game. God, tell me there's another one. How did they rank?
Tell me there's another.
Tell me there's another. They rank these by like level of fame.
What's the last name?
Busby, Busby. Why is Hazel Busby exponentially more famous than Olivia Busby? Like 15 more people famous than the other one.
Must be cuter.
Must be Santa.
Outdaughtered.
How about Chris Kyle? Would have been how old today?
5 of them. They have 5 of them. He would be 52.
47.
Oh my goodness.
You nailed it?
47. You're now tied because you didn't get one of the Busby girls. Somehow you said 4.
I didn't know who I was talking about.
Let's see. I think that's going to be it. Sharif El Koghali's birthday is today. Nope, he's 18. Close, you guys, though. You almost got it. This day in sports history. Guess what happened, Armstrong?
Grand National.
I'm looking for one.
Better
Oh my goodness! Yes. The 121st Grand National. John Buckingham aboard rank 100 to 1 outsider Foynavon avoids famous carnage to win by 15 lengths from favorite Honey End.
Every day we read about the carnage that happens.
Yesterday, 33 horses didn't finish one of the races out of 36. And then another one of them, 2 of them died. There were 2 equine deaths in the middle of the race. What year, Armstrong, the 121st Grand National?
121st, 1920.
No.
1905.
67. I'm sorry,
What?
Jack.
No, it's all good. I wasn't going to get that.
How about the
67?
Yeah. The expansion teams, the Royals, the Expos, the Padres, and the Pilots all won their first game on the same day in this year.
Jack might know this. I don't know. I have no clue.
No, I'm going to
70.
go with...
I'll give you a hint. It was the spring of...
Are you saying... do you mean to say summer?
The joke is that it's spring.
69?
Yes, it was 69. Nice.
So I was one off.
Daryl Strawberry enters Betty Ford Clinic. Oh, no. You know what that means.
Is that a drug rehab clinic?
Later, guys.
Is that what happened? Why? Okay, it's been up tempo. Thanks.